The old M1 Garand rifle in Sergeant Jesse Porter's hands felt like an antique, a relic from a bygone era. Yet as Benzite ships descended from the sky, their energy weapons disabling every piece of modern military hardware, Jesse realized this outdated weapon might be humanity's last hope. Alarms blared throughout the secret Montana base as Jesse and his fellow soldiers scrambled to make sense of the unfolding invasion. Screens flickered to life, showing news feeds from around the globe. Cities went dark. Military installations fell silent. The Benzite Admiral Zorn's face appeared on every working monitor, his alien features contorted in what passed for a smug grin among his species. "Humans," Zorn's voice boomed, "your primitive civilization is no match for our superior technology. Surrender now, or face annihilation." Jesse's commanding officer, Colonel Hawkins, spat on the floor. "Like hell we will," he growled, turning to his troops. "Porter, get to the armory. Our modern weapons are useless, but we've got a stockpile of World War II-era firearms. It's time to show these aliens why humans never throw anything away." As Jesse sprinted through the corridors, he felt the ground shake beneath his feet. Benzite ground troops were landing. He reached the armory and began distributing weapons to his fellow soldiers. Thompson submachine guns, Browning automatic rifles, even a few bazookas. It felt like stepping into a military museum, but these were no mere displays. Aboard the Benzite flagship, Weapons Officer Opal frowned at her console. "Admiral," she reported, "I'm detecting anomalous readings from the surface. There appears to be continued resistance." Zorn's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our pulse should have neutralized all their defenses. Send in the ground forces. Crush any remaining opposition." Back on Earth, Jesse and his makeshift platoon took up defensive positions around the base. They watched as Benzite soldiers advanced, their energy shields shimmering and plasma rifles at the ready. The aliens moved with confidence, clearly expecting no real threat from the humans they considered inferior. Jesse took a deep breath, sighting down the barrel of his M1 Garand. "Wait for it," he whispered to his troops. "Let them get close." The Benzites were less than 50 yards away when Jesse gave the order. "Fire!" The crack of gunfire shattered the tense silence. Bullets streaked through the air, and to everyone's shock, they passed right through the Benzite energy shields. Alien soldiers fell, purple blood staining the Montana soil. "It's working," Jesse shouted, cycling his rifle's bolt. "Burrito!" The human soldiers unleashed a barrage of lead, their outdated weapons proving devastatingly effective against the unprepared aliens. Benzite troops scrambled for cover, their advanced technology suddenly useless against this primitive onslaught. As the skirmish raged, news of the effective resistance spread rapidly. Military commands worldwide scrambled to unearth their own caches of vintage weapons. The fight for Earth's survival had found an unexpected advantage in the pages of history. On the Benzite flagship, alarms blared. Admiral Zorn raged at his subordinates. "How is this possible? They're using projectile weapons. Barbaric." Opal's fingers flew over her console. "Sir, our shields were designed to repel energy attacks. These bullets, they're simply passing through." Zorn's face darkened. "Analyze those weapons. Develop countermeasures. We will not be defeated by these primitive apes and their antique arms." As the first wave of Benzite troops retreated, Jesse and his fellow soldiers reloaded their weapons, preparing for the next assault. They had discovered a critical weakness in the alien invaders' defenses, but the war was far from over. Earth's fate now rested in the hands of soldiers wielding the weapons of their grandfathers, standing against an enemy from beyond the stars. Jesse chambered another round in his Garand, a grim smile on his face. The aliens were about to learn why humans never truly abandoned the tried-and-true methods of the past. The day of reckoning had arrived, and humanity was armed with the lessons of history. Jesse Porter lowered his M1 Garand, surveying the aftermath of their unexpected victory. The Montana soil was stained with purple benzite blood, and the air hung heavy with the acrid smell of gunpowder. He turned to his fellow soldiers, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. "We've got to capitalize on this," Jesse said, his mind racing. "Someone get me a secure line to command. They need to know what we've discovered." Within minutes, Jesse found himself speaking directly to the Pentagon. General Marcus Steele's gruff voice crackled over the secure line, a note of desperate hope evident as Jesse relayed their findings. "Vintage weapons, you say? And they're effective against the alien shields?" Steele's tone sharpened. "Porter, this could be the break we've been waiting for. I'm initiating Operation Retro immediately. Stand by for further orders." As Jesse ended the call, Colonel Hawkins approached, his face grim but determined. "Porter, we've got work to do. General Steele wants us to start training other units on these old weapons. We're setting up firing ranges and crash courses ASAP." Over the next few days, Jesse and his team worked tirelessly. They converted an unused hangar into a makeshift training facility, lines of soldiers stretching out the door as they waited for their turn to handle the unfamiliar weapons. "Remember, these aren't your modern rifles," Jesse shouted over the din of gunfire. "The M1 Garand's got a kick, and you've got to watch for that ping when the clip ejects. It's music to our ears, but it'll give away your position if you're not careful." As Jesse moved among the trainees, correcting stances and offering advice, he couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn of events. Here they were, Earth's last line of defense, placing their hopes in weapons that belonged in museums. Meanwhile, across the globe, Operation Retro gained momentum. In London, RAF crews worked feverishly to restore mothballed Spitfires to flying condition. In Tokyo, former JSDF officers instructed young recruits in the use of Type 99 rifles. And in New York, National Guard units rolled out Sherman tanks that hadn't seen action since the 1940s. Jesse was overseeing a group learning to handle Thompson submachine guns when Colonel Hawkins burst into the hangar, his face ashen. "Porter, we've got incoming. Benzite forces are launching coordinated attacks on major cities worldwide. New York, London, Tokyo, they're all under siege." The hangar erupted into chaos as soldiers scrambled to gather their newly acquired vintage weapons. Jesse grabbed his trusty M1 Garand and followed Hawkins to the command center, where screens displayed the unfolding battles across the globe. In New York, they watched as Captain Alex Rodriguez and his National Guard unit used bazookas to devastating effect against Benzite armored vehicles. The alien machines, designed to withstand energy weapons, crumpled under the impact of the old-school rockets. "It's working," Jesse breathed, a mixture of relief and amazement in his voice. "They really can't defend against these old weapons." Colonel Hawkins nodded grimly. "It's buying us time, but the Benzites aren't going to take this lying down. We need to press our advantage while we can." As if on cue, a priority message flashed across the main screen. General Steele's face appeared, his expression hard and determined. "Sergeant Porter, I've got a mission for you and your team. Our intel suggests the Benzites have established a command post in the Rockies. We need you to take it out." Jesse felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, a chance to strike at the heart of the Benzite operation in North America. "Yes, so we'll get it done." As Jesse began assembling his strike team, selecting the best-trained soldiers from among the new recruits, another alert blared through the command center. Colonel Hawkins' face paled as he read the incoming message. "Porter, we've got a problem. A massive Benzite force is massing for an all-out assault on Washington, D.C. If they take the capital..." Jesse nodded, understanding the implications. The success of their mission could determine the fate of not just the nation's capital, but potentially the entire war. "We won't let them have it, sir," Jesse said, his voice steady despite the weight settling on his shoulders. He turned to his assembled team, a mix of seasoned veterans and newly trained recruits, all clutching their vintage weapons. All right, people, we've got a job to do. The Benzites think they've got us beat with their fancy tech, but we're about to show them why you never underestimate a human with his back against the wall. As they loaded into the transport vehicles, Jesse couldn't help but feel a strange sense of déjà vu. Here they were, heading into battle with weapons their grandfathers might have used, to face an enemy from beyond the stars. The irony wasn't lost on him, but there was no time for reflection. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and Jesse Porter was determined to make every shot count. The transport vehicles rumbled through the night, carrying Jesse and his team towards their fateful mission in the Rockies. As they left the Montana base behind, Jesse couldn't shake the feeling that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. "All right, team," Jesse said, his voice steady despite the gravity of their task. "Let's go over the plan one more time." Sergeant Mike Hawkins, a grizzled veteran with keen eyes, nodded as he cradled his M1903 Springfield sniper rifle. "I'll provide overwatch and long-range support," he said, his voice a low rumble. Corporal Sarah Rice, her fingers dancing over the dials of a backpack radio, chimed in. "I'll maintain our comms and monitor Benzite transmissions. If they so much as sneeze, we'll know about it." Private First Class Tom Rodriguez grinned, patting the satchel of explosives at his side. "And I'll make sure we have a warm welcome for our alien friends if things get dicey." Jesse nodded, pleased with his hand-picked team. "Remember, our primary objective is to infiltrate the Benzite command post and disrupt their communications. Any intel we can gather is a bonus." As the vehicles wound their way into the Rocky Mountains, the team fell into a tense silence. The weight of their mission pressed down on them, heavier than the vintage weapons they carried. Suddenly, Sarah's radio crackled to life. "Incoming transmission from command," she reported, her face grave. "Benzite forces are intensifying their assault on major cities. Washington, D.C. is under heavy attack." Jesse's heart made. "Then we'd better move fast. The capital can't fall." As if on cue, the lead vehicle screeched to a halt. "Benzite patrol ahead," the driver hissed. Jesse's team sprang into action, weapons at the ready. They poured out of the vehicles, taking cover behind boulders and trees. The alien patrol, a group of 6 Benzites, moved with an air of confidence, their energy shields shimmering in the moonlight. "Hold your fire," Jesse whispered. "Wait until they're in range." The seconds ticked by, each moment an eternity. Then, just as the aliens were about to pass their position, Jesse gave the signal. "Now!" The night erupted in gunfire. The crack of Jesse's M1 Garand mixed with the staccato burst from Rodriguez's Thompson submachine gun and the heavy thump of Hawkins' sniper rifle. To the Benzite's shock, the primitive projectiles passed through their shields as if they weren't there. 3 aliens fell in the first volley, purple blood staining the rocky ground. The remaining Benzites scrambled for cover, returning fire with their plasma rifles. Energy bolts sizzled past Jesse's head, scorching the tree behind him. "Flank them," Jesse shouted, gesturing to Rodriguez. The young private nodded, darting from cover to cover as he worked his way around the Benzite position. Meanwhile, Hawkins' precise shots kept the aliens pinned down. In a matter of minutes, it was over. The last Benzite fell to a well-placed shot from Jesse's Garand. As the echoes of gunfire faded, an eerie silence settled over the mountain. "Everyone okay?" Jesse called out, receiving affirmative responses from his team. As they regrouped, Sarah's face paled. "Sir, that firefight. The command post will know we're here now." Jesse nodded grimly. "Then we'd better move fast. Our element of surprise is gone, but we still have a mission to complete." The team pushed on, moving swiftly through the rugged terrain. As they crested a ridge, they caught their first glimpse of the Benzite command post. The alien structure jutted out from the mountainside, a bizarre blend of organic curves and sharp angles. Floodlights swept the surrounding area, and patrols of Benzite soldiers scurried about with increased urgency. "They're definitely on high alert," Hawkins muttered, peering through his rifle scope. Jesse surveyed the scene, his mind racing. A frontal assault would be suicide, but they couldn't afford to wait. Every moment they delayed, Washington, D.C. inched closer to falling. His eyes landed on a steep slope above the command post, laden with fresh snow. An idea formed, risky but potentially game-changing. "Rodriguez," Jesse said, turning to the demolitions expert, "how do you feel about causing an avalanche?" The private's eyes lit up. "With pleasure, sir." As Rodriguez set to work planting explosives at key points along the slope, Jesse briefed the rest of the team on his plan. They would use the chaos of the avalanche as cover to infiltrate the command post. "Remember," Jesse said, his voice low and intense, "our primary goal is to disrupt their communications. Anything else is secondary. We get in, we do the job, we get out. Clear?" The team nodded, faces set with willpower. As they took their positions, Jesse felt a strange mix of emotions. Here they were, a small team of humans armed with weapons from another era, about to assault an alien command post. The fate of Earth might well hinge on what happened in the next few minutes. Jesse pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. He raised his hand, ready to give Rodriguez the signal to detonate the charges. In that moment, as he stood on the precipice of action, Jesse Porter knew that whatever happened next would change the course of the war, and perhaps the future of humanity itself. Jesse's hand dropped, signaling Rodriguez to detonate the charges. A thunderous boom echoed through the mountains, followed by the ominous rumble of tons of snow and rock cascading down the slope. The Benzite command post erupted into chaos as alarms blared and alien soldiers scrambled for cover. "Move! Now!" Jesse shouted, leading his team down the treacherous terrain towards the facility. They used the avalanche as cover, weaving between boulders and fallen trees as they approached the alien structure. The vintage weapons felt reassuringly solid in their hands as they prepared to face whatever lay ahead. As they reached the outer perimeter, a squad of Benzite defenders emerged from a side entrance, plasma rifles raised. Jesse's team reacted instantly, their World War II-era firearms barking in the night. The aliens' energy shields flickered uselessly as lead slugs tore through their ranks. "Push forward," Jesse ordered, advancing steadily as he picked off targets with his M1 Garand. Hawkins provided covering fire from an elevated position, his sniper rifle dropping Benzites with deadly precision. Rodriguez's Thompson submachine gun chattered, suppressing enemy positions as they fought their way inside. The interior of the command post was a maze of twisting corridors and pulsing alien technology. Sarah Rice worked feverishly on her radio equipment as they moved deeper into the facility. "Sir," she called out suddenly, "I've tapped into their comms network. They're planning an imminent attack on D.C. Jesse's fist tight. "Can you disrupt their communications?" Sarah nodded grimly, her fingers flying over her equipment. "Working on it now, but it'll take time." "Time we might not have," Jesse muttered. "Keep at it. The rest of us will push to the command center." They encountered fierce resistance as they battled through the facility. Benzite soldiers poured fire at them from entrenched positions, but their energy weapons proved ineffective against the humans' quick movements and ancient firearms. In one particularly harrowing firefight, Jesse found himself face-to-face with a towering Benzite warrior. The alien's energy blade hummed menacingly as it lunged forward. Jesse barely managed to dodge, feeling the heat of the weapon as it passed inches from his face. In one fluid motion, he brought up his M1 Garand and fired point-blank into the Benzite's chest. The alien crumpled, purple blood oozing from the wound. "You all right, sir?" Rodriguez called out, finishing off the last of the alien squad with a burst from his Thompson. Jesse nodded, catching his breath. "I'm good. Let's keep moving." They fought their way deeper into the heart of the command post, the effectiveness of their vintage weapons allowing them to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Finally, they reached a massive circular chamber dominated by a shimmering holographic display. "This is it," Jesse breathed, taking in the tactical map that showed the Benzites' invasion plans in intricate detail. "Rodriguez, get everything you can from that display. Hawkins, watch the door. Sarah, how's that communication disruption coming?" "Almost there, sir," Sarah replied, her voice strained with concentration. "Just need a few more minutes." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A deep, authoritative voice boomed over the alien PA system in a language none of them understood. "Sir," Sarah called out, her eyes wide. "They're initiating a full-scale assault on Washington, D.C. right now." Jesse's mind raced. They had the intel they needed, but if they couldn't stop this attack, it might all be for nothing. "Rodriguez, you got what we need?" The private nodded, holding up a small device. "Got it all, sir, every last bit." "Good," Jesse said, turning to Sarah. "How much longer on those comms?" "Done!" she exclaimed triumphantly. "Their long-range communications are scrambled. It won't last forever, but it should buy us some time." Jesse allowed himself a small smile. "Excellent work, all of you. Now let's get the hell out of here and deliver this intel." They turned to leave, only to find their path blocked by a group of Benzite elites led by a particularly imposing figure, Commander Cross, though the humans didn't yet know his name or rank. "You fought well, humans," Cross said in heavily accented English, his voice a low growl. "But your primitive weapons will not save you now." Jesse raised his M1 Garand, his team fanning out behind him. "We'll see about that," he replied, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. As both sides raised their weapons, the fate of Earth hung in the balance, with Jesse and his team standing as humanity's last, best hope against the alien invaders. Invasion. The tension in the room was palpable as both sides faced off, weapons raised. Suddenly, Commander Cross lunged forward, his energy blade slicing through the air. Jesse dropped and rolled, narrowly avoiding the attack. In the same motion, he brought up his M1 Garand and fired, the round catching Cross in the shoulder. The alien commander staggered back, purple blood seeping from the wound. "Now!" Jesse shouted, and his team sprang into action. Rodriguez lobbed a grenade into the group of Benzite elites, the explosion scattering them. Hawkins picked off two with precision shots from his Springfield, while Sarah provided covering fire with her sidearm. In the chaos, Jesse saw an opportunity. He tackled the wounded Cross, using the alien's own momentum to slam him into a control panel. Sparks flew as the circuitry shorted out, and the room plunged into darkness. "We're taking him with us," Jesse ordered, securing Cross' arms behind his back. He might have valuable intel. The team fought their way out of the command post, dragging the struggling Benzite commander with them. As they emerged into the crisp mountain air, they could hear the sound of approaching alien reinforcements. To the vehicles, double time. Jesse barked. They piled into the waiting trucks, Rodriguez taking the wheel of the lead vehicle. As they sped away from the command post, plasma bolts sizzled past them, scorching the rocky terrain. The race through the Rocky Mountains began in earnest. Rodriguez navigated the treacherous mountain roads with skill, the truck's engine roaring as they took tight turns at breakneck speeds. Behind them, Benzite pursuit craft screamed through the night sky, their searchlights scanning the ground. "We've got company," Hawkins called out from the truck bed, where he had set up his sniper rifle. Jesse leaned out the window, firing his Garand at the nearest pursuit craft. The rounds pinged off its hull, but one lucky shot caught the pilot, sending the craft spiraling into the mountainside in a ball of flame. "Nice shot, sir," Sarah exclaimed, her fingers working furiously on her radio equipment. "I'm picking up chatter. They're calling in more reinforcements." Jesse's mind raced. They needed to lose their pursuers and fast. "Rodriguez, take us off-road. We know this terrain better than they do." The truck lurched as Rodriguez steered them onto a narrow dirt path. The alien pursuit craft overshot them, unable to maneuver as nimbly in the tight canyons. "Hawkins, Rodriguez, set up an ambush at the next clearing," Jesse ordered. "Sarah, keep monitoring their comms. We need to stay one step ahead." As they reached a wider area, Rodriguez brought the truck to a halt behind a large boulder. Hawkins quickly set up his sniper position, while Jesse and Sarah took cover, weapons at the ready. The whine of alien engines grew louder as the pursuit craft approached. Jesse held his breath, waiting for the perfect moment. As the first craft came into view, he gave the signal. "Now!" Hawkins' rifle cracked, the round punching through the craft's cockpit. Rodriguez followed up with a burst from his Thompson, peppering the second craft with bullets. Both alien vehicles went down in a spectacular shower of sparks and debris. "That'll slow them down," Jesse said, a grim smile on his face. "But we can't stay here. Move out." They continued their perilous journey through the mountains, using every trick they knew to evade the Benzite forces. At one point, they were forced to abandon their vehicles and continue on foot, using the rugged terrain to their advantage. As they neared the extraction point, a new threat emerged. A sleek Benzite scout ship dropped out of the sky, its advanced shield shimmering in the pre-dawn light. "Our weapons aren't having much effect," Rodriguez shouted, his Thompson rounds bouncing harmlessly off the ship's defenses. Jesse scanned their surroundings, looking for any advantage. His eyes fell on a narrow canyon to their left. "This way," he called out, leading the team into the rocky passage. The scout ship followed, its bulk barely fitting between the canyon walls. Its maneuverability severely limited. The ship was forced to slow down, giving Jesse's team a chance to put some distance between them. "Rodriguez, we need those explosives now," Jesse said, pointing to a section of the canyon wall that looked unstable. The demolitions expert nodded, quickly setting the charges. As the scout ship rounded the corner, Rodriguez detonated the explosives. The canyon wall came crashing down, tons of rock and debris slamming into the alien craft. For a moment, Jesse thought they had won, but as the dust settled, he saw Rodriguez trapped on the other side of the rockfall, cut off from the rest of the team. "Rodriguez!" Jesse called out, trying to find a way through the debris. "I'm okay, sir," came the muffled reply. "But I can't get through. You have to go on without me." Jesse hesitated, torn between the mission and leaving a man behind. But he knew what had to be done. "We'll come back for you, Rodriguez. That's a promise." With heavy hearts, the team pushed on, their Benzite prisoner in tow. As they approached the extraction point, Jesse could see friendly forces in the distance. They had made it, but the war was nowhere near the end. As a helicopter touched down to pick them up, Jesse caught sight of a massive formation of B-17 flying fortresses in the distance, heading towards Washington, D.C. Whatever intelligence they had gathered, whatever prisoner they had captured, he knew that the real battle was about to begin. As they boarded the helicopter, Commander Cross finally spoke, his alien features twisted in a mix of pain and defiance. "You may have won this skirmish, humans, but the war is a long way to go. Admiral Zorn will crush your pathetic resistance." Jesse met the alien's gaze steadily. "We'll see about that," he replied, as the helicopter lifted off, carrying them towards an uncertain future and the final battle for Earth's survival. Freedom. As the helicopter lifted off, carrying Jesse and his team to safety, The roar of distant engines filled the air. Jesse peered out the window, his eyes widening at the sight of a massive formation of B-17 flying fortresses approaching Washington, D.C. "My God," he breathed, "the old birds are back in action." Sarah leaned in, her face a mix of awe and apprehension. "Those bombers. They're heading straight for the city." Jesse nodded grimly. "Let's hope whatever they're carrying can turn the tide." The Black Hawk sped towards the Pentagon, its vintage armor plates rattling with each burst of turbulence. Inside, Commander Cross sat in sullen silence, his alien features twisted in a scowl. As they neared the outskirts of Washington, D.C., the sky lit up with explosions. The B-17s had begun their bombing run, their payloads finding their marks with devastating accuracy. Massive fireballs erupted across the National Mall, engulfing Benzite positions in flames and shrapnel. "It's working," Hawkins shouted over the din of the helicopter's rotors. "Their shields aren't holding up." Through the chaos, Jesse spotted a familiar figure on the ground. Admiral Zorn, the Benzite Supreme Commander. The alien leader's personal shield flickered and died as a nearby explosion showered him with debris. "Pilot," Jesse called out, "can you get us closer to the ground? I think I see their leader." The helicopter banked sharply, descending towards a clearing just outside the city limits. As they neared the extraction point, Jesse caught sight of a squad of Benzite soldiers emerging from the tree-line. "Hawkins, cover us," Jesse ordered as the chopper touched down. The sniper didn't hesitate. He shouldered his M1 Garand and began picking off the approaching aliens with deadly precision. The familiar ping of the rifles and block clip ejecting punctuated each shot. Jesse and Sarah dragged the struggling Cross towards the helicopter while Hawkins provided covering fire. Just as they reached the Black Hawk, a plasma bolt sizzled past Jesse's ear, singeing his hair. "Go, go, go!" he shouted as they piled into the chopper. The pilot lifted off, narrowly avoiding a barrage of alien fire. As they gained altitude, Jesse watched the battle unfold below. The B-17s continued their relentless assault, systematically destroying Benzite strongholds and command centers. On the ground, human forces seized the opportunity. Soldiers armed with a mix of modern and World War II-era weapons pushed forward, retaking key positions around the city. The familiar chatter of Thompson submachine guns and the heavy thump of M1918 Browning automatic rifles filled the air. Through his binoculars, Jesse spotted a squad of U.S. Army Rangers engaging Admiral Zorn and his personal guard. The alien leader, wounded and cornered, fought fiercely but was ultimately overwhelmed. As Zorn was taken into custody, Jesse allowed himself a small smile. "We've got them on the run," he murmured. The Black Hawk touched down at the Pentagon, where a team of armed guards quickly escorted Jesse and his team inside. They were led to a secure briefing room, where General Marcus Steele awaited them. "Excellent work," Captain Porter, Steele said, his eyes fixed on the captured Commander Cross. "I trust you have some valuable intel for us." Jesse nodded, handing over the data they retrieved from the Benzite command post. "Everything we could find, Sir Fleet movements, supply lines, staging areas, it's all here." As the debriefing began, reports flooded in from across the city. The Benzite invasion force was in full retreat, their command structure shattered by the loss of Admiral Zorn and the devastating bombing raid. "It seems our vintage approach paid off," General Steele remarked, a hint of pride in his voice. "But this is just the beginning. We need to capitalize on this victory and push the aliens back on all fronts." Jesse stood at attention, sensing what was coming next. "What are your orders, sir?" General Steele's eyes gleamed with tenacity. "Captain Porter, I'm tasking you and your team with a new mission. You've proven the effectiveness of these old weapons against the Benzites. Now, I need you to share that knowledge. You'll be training resistance forces around the world, preparing them for the next phase of this war. As Jesse absorbed the weight of his new assignment, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and trepidation. The battle for Washington, D.C. had been won, but the war for Earth was a long way to go. With Commander Cross in custody and a wealth of alien intelligence at their disposal, humanity finally had a fighting chance. Outside the Pentagon, the sun began to rise over a battered but unbroken Washington, D.C. The Capitol dome, though scarred by plasma burns, still stood tall against the morning sky. As Jesse and his team prepared for their next mission, they knew that the hardest fight still lay ahead. But for the first time since the Benzite invasion began, the future held a glimmer of hope. Hope! As Jesse and his team prepared for their next mission, they knew that the hardest fight still lay ahead. But for the first time since the Benzite invasion began, the future held a glimmer of possibility. General Steele's voice cut through Jesse's thoughts. "Captain Porter, I have new orders for you and your team. We're taking this fight global." Jesse straightened, his attention sharpening. "What's the mission, sir?" "You've proven that these old weapons are our best bet against the Benzites. Now, we need you to share that knowledge with resistance forces around the world." Sarah's eyes widened. "Around the world? How are we going to manage that with the Benzites controlling most of our transportation infrastructure?" A smile tugged at the corner of Steele's mouth. "We've got something special for you." An hour later, Jesse stood on the tarmac of Andrews Air Force Base, staring up at a massive C-130 Hercules transport plane. But this was no ordinary C-130. The aircraft had been heavily modified, jam-packed with vintage World War II-era defensive armaments. Hawkins whistled as he ran his hand along the barrel of a .50 caliber machine gun mounted in one of the side turrets. "Now this is what I call an upgrade." Jesse nodded, taking in the sight of the tail gunner position and the additional gun ports dotting the fuselage. "They've turned this thing into a flying fortress." As they boarded the plane, Steele handed Jesse a folder. "Your first stop is London. The Benzites have dug in hard there, but Air Marshal Blackwood is holding the line. He'll brief you on the situation when you arrive." The engines roared to life as Jesse settled into his seat, flipping through the mission details. Sarah leaned over, her voice barely audible over the noise. "You think this will work? Teaching others to use these old weapons?" Jesse met her gaze, his expression determined. "It has to. We've seen what these weapons can do. Now we just need to spread the word." The C-130 lifted off, leaving the battered but unbroken skyline of Washington, D.C. behind. As they climbed, Jesse could see the scars of battle etched across the landscape below. But there was work to be done, a world to save. Hours into the flight, as they approached British airspace, the radio crackled to life. "Unidentified aircraft, you are entering restricted airspace. Identify yourself immediately." Before Jesse could respond, a squadron of sleek Benzite fighters appeared on the horizon, closing fast. "Positions!" Jesse shouted, scrambling to one of the gun turrets. Hawkins was already in place, his hands steady on the controls of the 50 calories. The first volley of plasma bolts sizzled past the C-130, lighting up the night sky. Hawkins opened fire, the heavy thump of the machine gun filling the cabin. Tracer rounds cut through the air, finding their mark on the lead Benzite fighter. Its shields flickered and failed under the barrage of antiquated but effective firepower. "These old guns pack a punch," Hawkins called out, a grin spreading across his face as the alien craft spiraled towards the ground. Jesse swung his turret around, targeting another fighter as it made a strafing run. The 50 calories rounds tore through its hull, sending it careening into its wingman. Both exploded in a brilliant fireball. The remaining Benzite fighters broke off their attack, clearly caught off guard by the effectiveness of the C-130's vintage defenses. As they retreated, Leaving a trail of burning wreckage in their wake, Jesse allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. "Looks like the element of surprise is still on our side," he said, patting the old machine gun affectionately. The radio crackled again, this time with a familiar accent. "Unidentified aircraft. This is RAF Nordholt. We saw that light show. Whoever you are, you've got friends here. Come on in." As the C-130 descended towards the airfield, Jesse could see the devastation that had been wrought on the outskirts of London. Plumes of smoke rose from the city center, and the iconic skyline was marred by the angular shapes of benzite structures. The plane touched down on the battered runway, coming to a stop near a group of RAF personnel. As Jesse and his team disembarked, a tall, distinguished man in a slightly singed uniform approached them. "Captain Porter?" he asked, extending his hand. "Air Marshal James Blackwood. Welcome to London, or what's left of it." Jesse shook the offered hand firmly. "Glad to be here. Sir, we heard you could use some help." Blackwood's expression was grim, but determined. "That we could. The buggers have fortified themselves in the Tower of London and surrounding areas. We've been hitting them hard, but their shields have made it bloody difficult to make any real progress." As they walked towards a nearby bunker, Blackwood continued his briefing. "We've got a right mess on our hands, but I hear you lot have had some success with unconventional methods." Jesse nodded. "That's right. Sir, we've found that older weapons, particularly those from the World War II era, are surprisingly effective against benzite technology." Blackwood's eyebrows rose. "Is that so? Well, you've come to the right place. Britain's got more World War II relics than you can shake a stick at. Museums, military warehouses. We've been sitting on a gold mine and didn't even know it." As they entered the bunker, Jesse saw maps of London spread out on a large table, marked with benzite positions and human strongholds. Blackwood gestured to the maps. "So, Captain Porter, you're the expert here. How do we take back our city?" Jesse studied the maps, his mind racing with possibilities. He looked up at Blackwood, a plan already forming. "Sir, I think it's time we showed the benzites that history has a way of repeating itself. Let's give them a taste of the Blitz." Blackwood's eyes lit up with understanding. "The old birds in the museums, Spitfires, Hurricanes. You think they'll fly?" Jesse nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Oh, they'll fly. And with a few modifications, they'll do a lot more than that. We're going to need every Lee-Enfield, Bren gun, and PIT we can get our hands on." As Jesse began outlining his plan, the room buzzed with a newfound energy. For the first time since the benzites had arrived, there was a sense that the tide might finally be turning. Outside, the sounds of distant explosions echoed across the city. The battle for London was about to enter a new phase, and Jesse Porter was determined to make it count. The war for Earth was a long way to go, but here, in this bunker beneath the battered streets of London, the spark of resistance was about to become a roaring flame. Flame. Jesse turned to his team, his expression a mix of dedication and anticipation. "All right, people. London was just the beginning. We've got our next mission, and it's a big one." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Where to this time, Captain?" Jesse spread out a map on the makeshift table. "The Amazon rainforest. We've got intel on a major benzite supply depot hidden deep in the jungle. It's crucial to their operations in South America and beyond." Hawkins whistled low. "From foggy London to the steaming jungle. At least we're seeing the world." As they prepared to board their modified C-130 Hercules, a transmission came through from General Steele. Jesse listened intently, his face growing more serious with each passing moment. "Change of plans," he announced to the team. "The stakes just got higher. Zorn and Cross spilled the beans during interrogation. The benzites are developing new energy shields that could render our vintage weapons useless. We need to take out that depot before they can deploy this tech." The flight to Brazil was long and tense. Jesse used the time to brief the team on their new arsenal. He held up a sleek M1 carbine, perfect for close-quarters jungle combat, and for heavier firepower. He patted a Browning automatic rifle. The bar will give us the punch we need. Sarah eyed the flamethrowers strapped to the wall. Those look nasty. Jesse nodded grimly. For destroying alien equipment. We can't leave anything intact. As they touched down on a hidden airstrip near Manaus, the humid air hit them like a wall. Major Carlos Oliveira of the Brazilian Armed Forces greeted them, his face etched with the weariness of prolonged resistance. Captain Porter, Oliveira said, shaking Jesse's hand. We've got a challenge ahead. The Benzites have some kind of cloaking tech hiding their depot. But we've got help from an unexpected source. He gestured to a group of indigenous men standing nearby. Local tribes have reported strange activities deep in the forest. It's our best lead. The trek into the jungle was grueling. Thick vegetation slowed their progress, and the constant hum of insects set everyone on edge. Jesse watched as his team struggled to keep their weapons dry in the oppressive humidity. Check your weapons regularly, he ordered. This environment is hell on the mechanisms. They had been moving for hours when Hawkins suddenly raised his fist, signaling a halt. Movement 2 o'clock, he whispered. Jesse peered through the foliage. A Benzite patrol was moving through a clearing ahead, their otherworldly forms a stark contrast to the lush greenery. Weapons free, Jesse commanded softly. But watch your lines of fire. We don't want to bring the whole forest down on us. The firefight was fierce but brief. The M1 carbines proved their worth, their quick, accurate fire dropping several aliens before they could react. Hawkins let loose with the bar, its thunderous report echoing through the trees as it cut down the remaining Benzites. As the last alien fell, a rustle from the underbrush put everyone back on high alert. Weapons swung toward the sound, fingers tightening on triggers. Don't shoot, a familiar voice called out. Friendly coming out. To Jesse's astonishment, Private First Class Tom Rodriguez emerged from the jungle, his uniform tattered and dirty, but unmistakably alive. Rodriguez. Jesse lowered his weapon. How the hell? It's a long story, sir, Rodriguez said, his eyes darting nervously around the forest. Short version. Got nabbed during our escape from the Rockies. Managed to slip away during transport here. Been trying to find a way out ever since. Jesse clasped the young soldier's shoulder. Glad to have you back, Private. What can you tell us about this depot? Rodriguez's eyes lit up. Everything? Sir, I've seen the inside. I know their patrols, their defenses. If you're here to hit it, I can help. With Rodriguez's intel, Jesse formulated a plan. He divided the team into 3 groups, a diversion team to draw out the defenders, a sabotage team to knock out the power, and the main assault team to penetrate the depot's core. As night fell, Jesse gave the signal. The diversion team opened up with mortars and machine guns, their vintage firepower, creating a chaotic distraction. Meanwhile, the sabotage team slipped through the shadows, using techniques that would have made World War II resistance fighters proud. Jesse led the main assault team through a weak point in the depot's defenses. They fought their way through corridors of alien metal, their old-world weapons proving devastatingly effective against the surprised Benzites. In the heart of the facility, they found what they were looking for: prototypes of the new shield technology and vast stockpiles of alien weaponry. Torch it all, Jesse ordered, hefting his flamethrower. Leave nothing for them to salvage. The team worked methodically, destroying everything in sight. As flames engulfed the alien tech, alarms blared throughout the facility. They fought their way back out, snatching up any intact alien devices they could carry. At the extraction point, Brazilian helicopters waited to whisk them away. As they lifted off, Jesse watched the Benzite depot burn, a pillar of smoke rising above the canopy. In the helicopter, exhausted but triumphant, Jesse received a transmission from General Steele. Similar operations were being planned worldwide, using their success as a template. As the jungle receded behind them, Jesse knew the war was just beginning. The Benzites would adapt, learn from this defeat. But for now, humanity had scored a crucial victory. The fight would continue, and Jesse Porter and his team would be at the forefront, armed with the weapons of the past to secure a future for Earth. Humanity. As the helicopter touched down at a makeshift landing zone outside Manaus, Jesse's satellite phone buzzed with an incoming transmission. Captain Porter, General Steele's voice crackled through the speaker. Outstanding work. Get your team on the next transport back to D.C. We need to debrief and analyze what you've recovered. Within hours, Jesse and his team were aboard a military transport, their hard-won alien technology secured in reinforced cases. The flight back to Washington was a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. They had struck a significant blow against the Benzites, but Jesse knew the aliens wouldn't take the setback lying down. Upon landing at Andrews Air Force Base, they were whisked away to a secure facility beneath the Pentagon. General Steele greeted them personally, his stern features softening slightly as he shook Jesse's hand. "You've bought us some time, Captain," Steele said, leading them to a situation room filled with analysts and technicians. "Our best minds are already working on the intel and tech you brought back. But we can't rest on our laurels." For the next few days, Jesse and his team worked around the clock, assisting in the analysis of the captured Benzite prototypes and sharing every detail of their mission. The mood was cautiously optimistic until a junior analyst burst into the room, her face pale. "Sir," she addressed General Steele, "we're receiving reports from resistance cells worldwide. The Benzites. They're changing tactics." Steele's brow furrowed as he scanned the incoming data. "They're adapting faster than we anticipated. They're arming their ground troops with projectile weapons alongside their energy weapons." Jesse leaned over the display, his mind racing. "They're trying to counter our vintage warfare strategy. We need to stay ahead of them." Steele nodded grimly. "Agreed. And I have just a mission for you and your team." He pulled up a satellite image of a familiar Washington landmark, the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. "We've converted it into an R&D center for our defense efforts. I want you to work with our lead weapons engineer there." As they approached the museum, Jesse was struck by the contrast between the grand, columned facade and the military vehicles and armed guards surrounding it. Inside, the once crowded exhibits had been transformed into high-tech workstations and testing areas. A tall, lanky man with wire-rimmed glasses approached them, his lab coat fluttering as he walked. "Captain Porter, I'm Dr. Alan Turing, lead weapons engineer. Welcome to our little workshop." Jesse raised an eyebrow. "Turing? Any relation to Dash, the World War II codebreaker?" "My grandfather," Turing replied with a smile. "Now, let me show you what we've been working on." He led them to a sealed chamber where a sleek rifle sat on a testing bench. "We call it the Retrotech rifle. It's based on the M1 Garand Action, but fires rounds capable of disrupting Benzite energy shields." As Jesse hefted the weapon, feeling its familiar weight combined with new, high-tech components, an urgent call came through on the facility's communication system. "This is Major Carlos Oliveira." A voice tinged with static and urgency filled the room. "The Benzites have launched a massive counterattack in South America. They're using both their advanced tech and new projectile weapons. We're being overwhelmed." Jesse locked eyes with General Steele, who had just entered the room. "Sir, we need to get down there with these new weapons. We can test them in the field and potentially turn the tide." Steele considered for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed, but we need to get you there fast and undetected." He paused, a glint in his eye. "I think it's time we showed you our latest acquisition." He led them to a hangar attached to the museum. As the door slid open, Jesse's jaw dropped. Inside sat a Benzite shuttle. Its sleek lines a stark contrast to the vintage aircraft surrounding it. Courtesy of our Navy SEALs, Steele explained. It's capable of atmospheric and space flight. This is your ticket into Brazil. As Jesse's team began loading the prototype rifles onto the shuttle, another transmission came through. This time, the voice was alien, yet familiar. "This is Opal," the Benzite weapons officer said, her tone urgent. "Admiral Zorn has escaped. He's regained control of part of our fleet and is planning an orbital bombardment of Earth's military infrastructure." The news hit like a physical blow. Jesse turned to Dr. Turing, his mind racing. "Doc, any ideas on how to counter an orbital attack?" Turing's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes. We've been experimenting with repurposing old naval guns and anti-aircraft artillery. Their unguided projectiles might just be effective against ships in low orbit." As the team made final preparations to board the Benzite shuttle, now sporting hastily painted U.S. Air Force insignia, Jesse felt the weight of their mission pressing down on him. They weren't just going to test new weapons or help the resistance in Brazil. They were embarking on a mission that could determine the fate of the entire planet. The shuttle's engines hummed to life, its Benzite cloaking technology rendering it invisible to both human and alien sensors. As they lifted off, Jesse caught a glimpse of the Washington Monument through the viewport, a stark reminder of what they were fighting for. High above the Earth, Admiral Zorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying the planet below. His mandibles clicked in anticipation as he prepared to launch the assault that would finally crush humanity's resistance. Little did he know that a small team in a stolen shuttle was racing against time, carrying with them the hopes of an entire world. Planet below. As the stolen Benzite shuttle accelerated towards Earth, Jesse Porter gripped the unfamiliar controls, his knuckles tightening with tension. The alien technology hummed and pulsed around them, a constant reminder of the stakes of their mission. "How are we looking, Hawkins?" Jesse called over his shoulder. Sergeant Mike Hawkins hunched over a console, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Holding steady. Sir, this bird's a far cry from AP-51, but I'm getting the hang of it." The shuttle bucked suddenly, throwing the team off balance. Red lights flashed across the control panel. "Damn it," Hawkins muttered. "Cloaking systems acting up. We might have company soon." As if on cue, a sleek Benzite patrol ship materialized off their port side. Jesse's heart raced as he maneuvered the shuttle, praying the alien vessel wouldn't notice anything amiss. "Easy does it," he breathed, guiding their craft into a bank of clouds. For a tense moment, it seemed they'd been spotted. Then, mercifully, the patrol ship veered away, continuing its predetermined route. Collective sighs of relief filled the shuttle's cabin, but their reprieve was short-lived. A loud pop echoed to the hull, followed by a cascade of sparks from the rear console. "Cloaking's gone," Hawkins reported grimly. "We'll have to set down early." Jesse scanned the terrain below, searching for a suitable landing site. The lush green expanse of the Amazon gave way to the sprawling outskirts of Sao Paulo. He spotted a clearing just beyond the city limits and angled the shuttle towards it. "Hang on," he warned. "This might get rough." The alien craft shuddered as it descended, its systems protesting the unplanned landing. Jesse fought the controls, willing the shuttle to stay level as they approached the ground. With a bone-jarring thud, they touched down, skidding across the clearing before coming to a stop at the edge of the tree-line. As the team disembarked, weapons at the ready, the sound of approaching vehicles reached their ears. Jesse raised his rifle, prepared for a fight, but lowered it as he recognized the lead jeep's occupant. Major Carlos Oliveira jumped from the vehicle before it had fully stopped, a grin spreading across his face despite the dire circumstances. "Captain Porter," he called out, clasping Jesse's hand. "When we picked up that alien signature, I hoped it might be you. Come, quickly. We need to move before Benzite patrols investigate the landing." As they loaded their equipment into the waiting vehicles, Jesse briefed Oliveira on their mission and the new retro-tech rifles. "These weapons," Oliveira mused, examining one of the rifles, "they could change everything. But we'll need more than just firepower to stop the Benzites' advance." Jesse nodded grimly. "Intel suggests they've set up a forward base in Rio. We hit their supply lines, create a diversion, then strike at the heart of their operation." As they sped towards the Brazilian Resistance's hidden compound, Jesse's satellite phone crackled to life. General Steele's voice, tinged with urgency, filled the air. "Porter, Zorn started his bombardment. We've initiated Operation Skyward, but we need you to move fast. Whatever the Benzites have cooking in Rio, we can't let them deploy it." Jesse acknowledged the order, his mind already racing through potential strategies. As they arrived at the compound, a flurry of activity greeted them. Resistance fighters scrambled to distribute the new weapons and prepare for the coming battle. In a makeshift war room, Jesse laid out his plan to Oliveira and the other resistance leaders. "We'll split into 2 teams. Major, you'll lead the main force against their supply lines here and here." He pointed to key locations on a map of Brazil. "My team will use the distraction to infiltrate the Rio base." Oliveira nodded, his expression grim but determined. "And once you're inside, we find whatever new tech they're developing and either destroy it or bring it back with us. Either way, we make sure it never sees the battlefield." As final preparations were made, Jesse gathered his infiltration team. He distributed the retro-tech rifles, watching as the soldiers familiarized themselves with the hybrid weapons. "Remember," he cautioned, "these aren't like anything you've used before. They pack a hell of a punch, but don't get cocky. The Benzites are adapting, and we need to stay one step ahead." Night fell as they set out, the distant rumble of explosions signaling the start of Oliveira's diversionary attack. Jesse led his team through the outskirts of Rio, the once vibrant city, now a ghostly shell of its former self. As they approached the Benzite base, the true scale of the alien presence became clear. Towering energy barriers shimmered around the perimeter, while strange, otherworldly structures loomed within. "There," Jesse whispered, pointing to a gap in the patrols. "That's our way in." They moved silently, using the cover of darkness and the chaos of the distant battle to their advantage. As they reached the base's outer defenses, Jesse raised his retro-tech rifle, took a deep breath, and squeezed the trigger. The weapon hummed to life, a brilliant pulse of energy filled with conventional projectiles streaking towards the nearest Benzite guard. The alien's shield flickered and failed, unable to withstand the hybrid assault. Before the guard could raise an alarm, it crumpled to the ground. "Move," Jesse hissed, and his team surged forward into the heart of the enemy's stronghold. Inside, the base was a maze of alien technology and pulsing energy conduits. They encountered sporadic resistance, but the element of surprise and their new weapons gave them the edge. As they pushed deeper into the facility, a massive chamber opened up before them. In its center stood a colossal device, its purpose unknown, but its importance clear from the number of Benzite scientists swarming around it. "That has to be it," Jesse breathed. "The shield prototype." Before they could formulate a plan of attack, alarms blared throughout the base. Their presence had been detected. "Looks like subtlety's out the window," Jesse grimaced, raising his rifle. "Take it down, whatever it takes." As his team opened fire on the prototype and its Benzite defenders, Jesse knew the real battle was just beginning. The success of their mission, and possibly the fate of the entire war, hinged on what happened in the next few moments. Minutes. Jesse took a deep breath, steadying himself for the fight ahead. The team advanced cautiously into the chamber, their retro-tech rifles at the ready. Suddenly, a barrage of energy bolts erupted from behind the shield prototype, forcing them to scatter for cover. "Contact!" Jesse shouted, diving behind a console. "Looks like they were expecting us." The air crackled with a mix of energy weapons fire and the distinctive crack of projectile firearms. Jesse's eyes widened as he realized the Benzites had adapted faster than anticipated. "They're using our own weapons against us," Corporal Sarah Rice called out, her voice tight with tension. Jesse nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to show them how it's done." Rodriguez, Rice, flank left. Hawkins, with me on the right. "Go!" The team moved with practiced precision, using the alien equipment as cover. Jesse's Retrotech rifle hummed to life, sending a burst of hybrid rounds towards a group of Benzite defenders. Their shields flickered and failed under the assault, unable to cope with a combination of kinetic and energy attacks. As they pushed deeper into the facility, the resistance grew fiercer. Benzite troops poured in from adjoining corridors, their tactics eerily reminiscent of human urban warfare techniques. "They're learning," Hawkins muttered, reloading his rifle. Jesse's mind raced, searching for a way to regain the advantage. His eyes fell on a pile of debris near a partially collapsed section of the ceiling. "Rice, Rodriguez, cover us," he ordered. "Hawkins, help me with this." Together, they quickly assembled a crude barricade, using broken alien technology and rubble to create a choke point in the narrow corridor. As they worked, Jesse could hear the sound of Benzite troops advancing. "Fall back behind the barricade," Jesse commanded as soon as they finished. "Let them come to us." The team took up positions, their rifles trained on the corridor. Moments later, a squad of Benzites rounded the corner, only to find themselves caught in a devastating crossfire. The narrow space amplified the effectiveness of the Retrotech rifles, turning the corridor into a killing zone. As the last Benzite fell, an eerie silence descended on the facility. Jesse knew it wouldn't last long. "We need to move," he said, already pushing forward. "Find that prototype and end this." They advanced through the complex, setting up similar traps where they could. Each encounter with the Benzites became a brutal test of adaptability, with both sides evolving their tactics on the fly. After what felt like hours of intense combat, Corporal Rice spotted something unusual. "Captain, over here," she called, gesturing towards a section of wall that seemed out of place. "I think there's a hidden entrance." Jesse examined the area, noticing subtle differences in the material and construction. "Good eye, Corporal. Let's see what's behind door number 1. With some effort, they managed to activate the hidden mechanism. The wall slid away, revealing a dimly lit staircase descending into the earth. "Looks like we're going underground," Jesse said, his voice low. "Stay alert. No telling what we'll find down there." The team descended cautiously, their senses on high alert. The air grew cooler and damp as they went deeper, the sounds of battle from above growing fainter. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a vast subterranean laboratory. Banks of alien computers lined the walls, pulsing with strange energies. In the center of the room stood a massive device, easily 3 stories tall, crackling with power. "That has to be it," Jesse breathed, staring at the imposing machine. The shield prototype. As they approached the device, Jesse's satellite phone crackled to life. General Steele's voice came through, tinged with urgency. "Porter, we've got new intel from Opal. That prototype you're after? It's the only working model the Benzites have. Take it out, and we could turn this war around." Jesse acknowledged the order, his mind already formulating a plan. "Rodriguez, how much explosive do we have left?" As Rodriguez began to answer, a new sound caught their attention. The rhythmic thud of heavy footsteps echoed from the entrance to the lab. "Incoming!" Hawkins shouted, just as a squad of Benzite elite guards burst into the room, led by a scarred commander whose armor bore the marks of countless battles. Jesse's team reacted instantly, diving for cover as energy bolts and projectiles filled the air. The confined space of the lab turned the battle into a chaotic melee, with both sides struggling to gain the upper hand. The Retrotech rifles proved their worth once again, punching through the elite guard's armor with devastating effect. But the Benzite's superior numbers began to tell, pushing Jesse's team back towards the prototype. As the battle raged, a stray shot from a Benzite weapon struck the shield device. The massive machine shuddered, emitting a high-pitched whine as arcs of energy began to dance across its surface. "It's destabilizing," Rice shouted over the din of combat. "We need to get out of here." Jesse made a split-second decision. Plant the charges and fall back. Now! As his team scrambled to set the explosives, Jesse provided covering fire. The Benzite commander, realizing the danger, barked orders in his alien tongue, trying to reach the prototype. With the charges set, Jesse's team began their retreat. The lab had become a maelstrom of wild energy and weapons fire, the air thick with ozone and the acrid smell of burning equipment. "Move, move, move," Jesse yelled, urging his team towards the exit as the timer on the explosives counted down. They had barely made it to the staircase when the world behind them erupted in fire and sound. The force of the explosion sent them tumbling upwards, debris and shrapnel raining down around them. Battered and bruised, Jesse and his team emerged from the underground complex to find the Benzite base in chaos. The destruction of their command center and the loss of the shield prototype had thrown the alien forces into disarray. In the distance, Jesse could hear the sounds of Major Oliveira's forces pushing forward, seizing the opportunity created by the confusion. As the dust settled and the reality of their success began to sink in, Jesse allowed himself a moment of hope. They had struck a significant blow against the Benzites, one that could change the course of the war. But even as he watched the alien forces retreat, Jesse knew this was just the beginning. The Benzites would adapt, just as they had before. And when they did, humanity would need to be ready. His satellite phone crackled once more. General Steele's voice came through, already preparing for the next phase of the war. "Good work in Rio, Porter. But we're picking up some strange activity in Eastern Europe. I need you and your team ready to move out." "Good work in Rio, Porter. But we're picking up some strange activity in Eastern Europe. I need you and your team ready to move out ASAP." General Steele's voice crackled through the satellite phone. Jesse acknowledged the order and signaled his team to fall back. As they made their way through the chaos of the crumbling Benzite base, he couldn't shake the feeling that this victory, while significant, was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. The flight back to Washington, D.C., was a blur of exhaustion and adrenaline come-down. Jesse's team caught what sleep they could, their bodies still thrumming with the tension of the Rio operation. As the plane touched down, Jesse steeled himself for the debriefing he knew was coming. General Marcus Steele wasted no time. Within hours of their arrival, Jesse found himself in a high-level meeting, surrounded by the brightest minds and toughest soldiers humanity had to offer. The mood was cautiously optimistic, but the weight of responsibility hung heavy in the air. "The Rio operation was a success," Steele began, his voice gruff but tinged with pride. "But the Benzites are already regrouping. Our intel suggests they're fortifying their positions in Eastern Europe, with a particular focus on the Carpathian Mountains." A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing a topographical map of the region. Jesse leaned forward, studying the rugged terrain. "We believe they've established a key command and control center here," Steele continued, highlighting a section of the mountains, "possibly developing new weapons tech as well." Dr. Alan Turing stepped forward, his eyes bright with excitement despite the gravity of the situation. "We've made some advancements of our own," he said, gesturing to an assistant who wheeled in a cart covered by a cloth. With a flourish, Turing unveiled a sleek, menacing-looking weapon. "Behold, the hybrid assault rifle," he announced. "It combines the reliability of World War II mechanics with salvage benzite tech from Rio, capable of firing both conventional rounds and energy pulses." Jesse picked up one of the rifles, feeling its weight and balance. It was a far cry from the cobbled-together Retrotech rifles they'd used in Brazil, but it still had that vintage feel that had served them so well. "Your mission," Steele said, drawing Jesse's attention back to the map, "is to infiltrate that Carpathian facility and neutralize it. But there's more." The general's face grew grim as he relayed the latest intelligence from Opal. Admiral Zorn, growing desperate after the defeat in Rio, was planning a massive orbital bombardment of Earth's major population centers. "We're not just fighting for an advantage anymore," Steele said, his voice low. "We're in a race against time to save billions of lives." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Jesse's team underwent intensive training in mountain warfare tactics, studying World War II Alpine campaigns for inspiration. They were issued specialized equipment, vintage ice axes and climbing gear, upgraded with modern materials for improved durability. As they prepared to deploy, a new face joined their ranks. Captain Elena Petrova, a former Russian Spetsnaz operative, brought with her a wealth of experience in the Carpathian region and guerrilla warfare tactics. "The terrain will be our greatest ally and our most dangerous enemy," Petrova explained during a strategy session. Her accent was thick, but her English precise. "We must become one with the mountains if we hope to succeed." The night before their departure, Jesse found himself unable to sleep. He wandered the base, eventually ending up in the hangar where their modified C-130 waited. The aircraft was a marvel of engineering, equipped with both vintage and cutting-edge electronic countermeasures to avoid benzite detection. As he ran his hand along the plane's fuselage, Jesse heard footsteps approaching. He turned to see Captain Petrova, her expression unreadable in the dim light. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. Petrova shook her head. "Too much at stake," she replied simply. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their mission hanging between them. "Do you think we can pull this off?" Jesse finally asked, voicing the doubt he'd been holding back from his team. Petrova's eyes hardened with persistence. "We must," she said. "For all those who cannot fight, we must." The next morning, as dawn broke over the airfield, Jesse's team boarded the C-130. The cargo hold was filled with their specialized gear and the new hybrid assault rifles. As the engines roared to life, Jesse looked at each member of his team, seeing in their eyes the same mix of fear and willpower he felt himself. "Remember your training," he said as the plane lifted off. "Trust your instincts and trust each other. We're about to make history." The flight to Eastern Europe was tense but uneventful. As they approached the drop zone, Jesse went over the plan one last time. They would perform a high-altitude, low-opening jump into the Carpathians, then begin their ascent towards the benzite facility. As the jump light turned green, Jesse took a deep breath and stepped into the void. The rush of freefall was exhilarating. The moonlit landscape of the Carpathians spread out below them like a dark, jagged sea. They deployed their chutes and landed in a small clearing, quickly gathering their gear and getting their bearings. The air was thin and cold, the silence of the mountains broken only by the whisper of the wind through the pines. "Move out," Jesse ordered softly, and the team began their ascent into the unknown. As they climbed, the harsh reality of their environment became apparent. Sheer cliffs and treacherous ice fields challenged their every step. Their vintage-inspired gear proved invaluable, allowing them to navigate terrain that would have stymied less prepared climbers. On the third day of their ascent, as they paused to catch their breath on a narrow ledge, Corporal Rice spotted movement in the valley below. "Benzite patrol," she whispered, passing the binoculars to Jesse. He observed the alien squad moving with unnatural grace across the rugged landscape. It was clear the benzites were adapting to the terrain, but their movements still lacked the intuitive understanding of the mountains that Jesse's team had developed. "We're getting close," Jesse said, handing the binoculars back. "Double-check your gear. We'll make our final approach under cover of darkness." As night fell, they reached a vantage point overlooking their target. The Benzite installation was a massive structure built into the side of the mountain, pulsing with strange energies and jam-packed with defenses. Captain Petrova studied the facility intently. "There," she said, pointing to a section of the outer wall. "That looks like a weak point in their perimeter, similar to old Soviet bunker designs." Jesse nodded, formulating a plan. They would use a combination of World War II stealth tactics and their advanced hybrid assault rifles to breach the facility. But as they prepared to move out, their comms unit crackled to life. "Intercepted transmission," Hawkins reported, his voice tense. "Admiral Zorn is en route to the facility. Eta unknown." Jesse's mind raced. The stakes had just gotten higher, but so had the potential payoff. If they could neutralize both the facility and Admiral Zorn, they might just put an end to this war once and for all. "Change of plans," Jesse said, his voice low but firm. "We're going to dash." "To take a calculated risk," Jesse announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We're going to infiltrate the facility and neutralize both the installation and Admiral Zorn if possible." As the team prepared to move out, a burst of static erupted from their comms unit. Through the interference, a faint voice could be heard. "Human soldiers. This is Dr. Nikolai Volkov. Captured. Inside the facility." The team froze, exchanging looks of disbelief. Dr. Volkov, a renowned Earth physicist, had been presumed lost in the early days of the Benzite invasion. "Can you clean up that signal?" Jesse asked Hawkins, who was already working on the comms unit. After a few tense moments, Dr. Volkov's voice came through more clearly. "I've been forced to work on a secret project within this facility. I can help you gain access, but you must hurry. The Benzites are preparing something catastrophic." With this unexpected development, Jesse quickly revised their plan. Using Dr. Volkov's inside knowledge, they identified a hidden maintenance tunnel that would lead them into the heart of the installation. The team approached a sheer ice wall that concealed the tunnel entrance. Jesse nodded to Rice, who pulled out their vintage ice axes and began to secure a climbing rope. "Just like the old Alpine troops," she muttered, driving the axe into the ice with practiced precision. One by one, they scaled the treacherous wall, their World War II-inspired gear proving its worth as they navigated around hidden crevasses and avoided triggering Benzite motion sensors. As they reached the tunnel entrance, a patrol of Benzite guards rounded a nearby outcropping. Jesse raised his hybrid assault rifle, switching it to silent projectile mode. With 3 quick bursts, the aliens fell, their armor no match for the ingenious human weapon. Inside the tunnel, the air grew warm and humid, a stark contrast to the frigid mountain exterior. The team moved swiftly, guided by Dr. Volkov's instructions relayed through their comms. They emerged into a vast chamber that hummed with alien energy. At its center stood a massive device, its purpose unclear but undoubtedly sinister. "My God!" Petrova breathed, her eyes widening. "It's a gravitational weapon. They intend to manipulate the Earth's tectonic plates." Before Jesse could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. They had been detected. "Move!" Jesse ordered, and the team sprinted toward the nearest cover as Benzite troops poured into the chamber. The air filled with the smell of ozone as energy weapons discharged, intermingling with the sharp crack of the humans' hybrid rifles. Jesse's team fought with a fluid grace, their vintage-inspired tactics catching the Benzites off guard. Petrova moved like a ghost, her close-quarters combat skills honed to perfection. She ducked under an alien swing, driving her combat knife into a weak point in its armor before spinning away to engage the next target. As they pushed deeper into the facility, evidence of internal strife among the Benzites became apparent. Jesse overheard communications indicating that some alien officers were questioning the wisdom of Zorn's new tactics and the overall cost of the war. They fought their way to the central control room, only to find it heavily fortified. As energy bolts sizzled past their heads, Sergeant Hawkins noticed something peculiar about the weapon's cooling system. "Sir," he called to Jesse, "I think I can overload it, 'cause a chain reaction that'll bring this whole place down." Jesse weighed their options quickly. "Do it. Rice, you're with Hawkins. Petrova, Rodriguez, find Volkov. I'll lead the assault on the control room." As the team split up, a priority transmission came through from General Steele. The orbital bombardment had begun. Jesse gritted his teeth, knowing they were now in a race against time. He led his group in a frontal assault on the control room, their hybrid assault rifles switching seamlessly between projectile and energy modes as they engaged waves of Benzite defenders. Meanwhile, Hawkins and Rice reached the power plant. They encountered a group of surprised Benzite engineers, quickly dispatching them with well-placed shots. "Look at this setup," Hawkins marveled, his eyes scanning the alien technology. "It's like their version of a boiler room. I bet if we overload these conduits here and here, it'll create a feedback loop." As they worked to plant explosives, Petrova and Rodriguez navigated through maintenance shafts, following Dr. Volkov's guidance. They found the physicist in a hidden laboratory, surrounded by a mix of Earth and Benzite technology. "We must hurry," Volkov urged as they secured him. "Admiral Zorn is here, overseeing the weapon's activation personally." Outside, the first waves of the orbital bombardment became visible, streaks of deadly energy illuminating the night sky. Jesse knew their window of opportunity was closing fast. "Hawkins' status?" He barked into his comm as his group continued to exchange fire with the Benzites outside the control room. "Ready on your order, sir," came the reply. Jesse took a deep breath, knowing his next decision could determine the fate of the mission and possibly the entire war. "Do it. Blow the power plant now." The explosion rocked the entire facility, sending shockwaves through the mountain. Alarms blared as the gravitational weapon began to overload, its energy spiraling out of control. In the ensuing chaos, Jesse rallied his team. "Everyone, converge on my position. We're getting out of here with Volkov and whatever intel we can grab." As they fought their way through collapsing corridors and panicked Benzite soldiers, Jesse couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. They had dealt a significant blow to the alien war machine, but the conflict was far from finished. With Admiral Zorn's whereabouts unknown and Benzite forces still present on Earth and in orbit, Jesse knew that their next moves would be crucial. As they emerged from the crumbling mountain facility, the team watched the orbital bombardment continue, albeit with less intensity than originally planned. Jesse turned to Dr. Volkov, whose eyes reflected a mix of relief and perseverance. "Doctor, we're going to need everything you know about their tech. This war just entered a new phase, and we can't afford to waste this advantage." As the first rays of dawn broke over the Carpathian peaks, Jesse and his team began their descent, carrying with them the hopes of turning the tide of the war once and for all. Once and for all. As they began their descent from the crumbling Benzite facility, the sky lit up with the ongoing orbital bombardment, casting an eerie glow across the Carpathian peaks. The team's relief at their successful mission was short-lived as the mountain began to shudder beneath their feet. The orbital strikes had destabilized the already treacherous terrain, triggering a series of avalanches and rock slides. "Move!" Jesse shouted, his voice barely audible over the rumbling of the mountain. The team scrambled down the slope, their vintage mountaineering equipment proving invaluable as they navigated the shifting landscape. Petrova led the way, her ice axe biting into the frozen ground with each step. Rice and Rodriguez flanked Dr. Volkov, ensuring the physicist's safety as they descended. A massive boulder careened past them, missing Hawkins by inches. Just like the Ardennes in 44, he muttered, adjusting his grip on his rifle. As they reached a narrow ledge, a deafening crack split the air. The path ahead crumbled away, leaving a gaping chasm between them and safety. Jesse's mind raced, recalling old Alpine rescue techniques. Hawkins, the piton gun. Hawkins unholstered the modified World War II device and fired it across the gap. The piton embedded itself deep into the rock face on the other side, trailing a sturdy cable behind it. One by one, they clipped onto the line and made their way across the void, the cable groaning under their weight. As Rodriguez, the last across, reached the midpoint, a tremor shook the mountain. The piton began to pull free from the rock. "Rodriguez, move!" Jesse yelled. With a burst of speed, Rodriguez swung himself forward, barely making it to solid ground as the cable snapped behind him. They pushed on, using every ounce of their training and vintage gear to overcome the mountain's challenges. As dawn broke, they finally reached the relative safety of the foothills. Catching their breath, Jesse activated his comm unit. "Base, this is Foxhound. Mission accomplished. Requesting extraction." Static crackled through the device before a voice responded. "Negative, Foxhound. Area is too hot for extraction. Make your way to coordinates 47. 5 north, 25. 3 east. You'll find friendlies there." As they set off towards a rendezvous point, the team remained vigilant. The destruction of the Benzite facility had likely stirred up a hornet's nest, and they were deep in enemy territory. After hours of cautious travel through dense forests and abandoned villages, they approached a clearing. Jesse held up a fist, signaling the team to halt. The sound of engines filled the air. "Contact 2 o'clock, Rice whispered, peering through her scope. Through the trees, they spotted a convoy of vehicles approaching. Jesse tensed, ready to give the order to engage, when he noticed something odd about the lead vehicle. "Hold fire," he commanded. "Those aren't Benzite vehicles." As the convoy drew closer, they saw that it consisted of a mix of modern military trucks and, was that AT-34 tank? A figure emerged from the lead vehicle, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "American soldiers, we are friends. I am Commander Andrei Kovacs of the Eastern European Resistance." Jesse signaled his team to lower their weapons as they approached the convoy. Kovacs, a weathered man with a thick beard and piercing eyes, greeted them warmly. "Your strike against the Benzite mountain base has ignited a fire across the region," Kovacs explained, his voice filled with barely suppressed excitement. "Resistance cells are rising up everywhere, hitting Benzite positions with everything we've got." He gestured to the eclectic mix of vehicles behind him. "We're using whatever we can get our hands on. These old tanks and artillery pieces, pulled them right out of museums and got them running again." As they talked, Dr. Volkov stepped forward. "Commander, I have critical information about Benzite shield technology. We need to get to a properly equipped lab as soon as possible." Kovacs nodded grimly. "We received word that Admiral Zorn escaped your attack. He's holed up in Berlin, coordinating their forces from there." Jesse's mind raced with the implications. Taking out Zorn could be the key to breaking the Benzite command structure, but Volkov's research could potentially neutralize their greatest tactical advantage. Before he could weigh their options, his comm unit crackled to life. General Steele's voice came through, clear and authoritative. "Porter, new orders. You're to escort Dr. Volkov to the underground CERN facility in Switzerland. His work takes priority. We'll deal with Zorn later." Jesse acknowledged the order, then turned to Kovacs. "Commander, we need to get to Switzerland. Can you help us?" Kovacs stroked his beard thoughtfully. "It won't be easy. The Benzites control most of the main routes. But we know some old smuggling paths from the last war. We can get you part of the way there." As they prepared to move out, Jesse couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. The Benzites would be regrouping, possibly planning a major counterattack. Every moment counted. He watched as his team integrated with Kovacs resistance fighters, sharing techniques and examining each other's weapons. The fusion of modern tactics with vintage equipment was a testament to human adaptability. As they set off toward Switzerland, Jesse knew that the journey ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. But as he looked at the persistence on the faces around him, he felt a surge of confidence. They had struck a significant blow against the Benzites, and now it was time to press their advantage. The convoy rolled out, a strange mix of old and new, all united in their goal to liberate Earth from its alien oppressors. The road to CERN lay ahead, fraught with danger but also filled with the promise of a game-changing breakthrough. The convoy rolled to a halt as they approached the outskirts of a small Swiss village. Jesse surveyed the quaint buildings, their wooden facades a stark contrast to the high-tech facility they were heading towards. "We're about 10 kilometers from CERN," Kovacs announced, his voice low. "This is as far as we can take you. Benzite patrols have increased in the area." Jesse nodded, turning to his team. "All right, we go on foot from here. Kovacs, thank you for getting us this far." As they prepared to move out, Jesse's comm unit crackled to life. General Steele's voice came through, urgent and clear. "Porter, new intel. Berlin operation is a go. We need you to redirect immediately." Jesse's brow furrowed. "Sir, we're almost at CERN with Dr. Volkov. Change of plans. We received communication from a Benzite defector named Opal. She's offering crucial intelligence on Admiral Zorn's location in Berlin. This could be our chance to end this war." Jesse glanced at Dr. Volkov, who nodded in understanding. "What about the doctor's research, sir?" "CERN can wait. This opportunity is time-sensitive. Opal claims to have gathered a faction of Benzite officers opposed to Zorn. They're offering an alliance in exchange for amnesty." "Understood. Sir, we'll change course immediately." As Jesse relayed the new orders to his team, he could see a mix of excitement and apprehension on their faces. They had been prepared for a covert entry into CERN, not an assault on the heart of Benzite operations in Europe. Dr. Volkov approached Jesse, his eyes gleaming with grit. "Before we go, I have something that might help." He opened a case, revealing several small devices. Prototype shield disruptors. Limited range and power, but they should give us an edge against Benzite defenses. Jesse picked up one of the devices, feeling its weight. "Doctor, you never cease to amaze me. All right, team, let's integrate these with our gear. We're going to need every advantage we can get." As they prepared for the journey to Berlin, Jesse divided the team into two groups. "Hawkins, you'll lead the second team. You will coordinate with Opal's faction to assault Zorn's bunker. My group will hit the Benzite research facility to secure the isotope we need for the doctor's work." Hawkins nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Just like old times, sir?" The team moved out, using a combination of stealth tactics and the advanced cloaking technology they had salvaged from previous missions. They slipped past Benzite patrols, their movements a seamless blend of World War II resistance techniques and futuristic tech. As they neared Berlin, they rendezvoused with Colonel Hans Muller and his German resistance fighters. Muller, a grizzled veteran with steel in his eyes, greeted them with a firm handshake. "Welcome to the front lines, Americans," Muller said, gesturing to his makeshift base. Restored Panzer tanks stood alongside modern weaponry, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of alien technology. Jesse briefed Muller on their plan, and the colonel nodded approvingly. "We've been waiting for a chance like this. My forces are at your disposal." As night fell, Jesse's team, augmented by Muller's fighters, approached the Benzite research facility. The massive structure loomed before them, its energy shield shimmering in the darkness. Jesse activated his shield disruptor, watching as a small section of the barrier flickered and died. Now! They surged forward, breaching the perimeter. Alarms blared as Benzite security forces rushed to repel the invasion. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, met by the sharp crack of human firearms. Inside the facility, Jesse's team moved with practiced efficiency. Their hybrid assault rifles proved devastatingly effective, the combination of conventional rounds and energy pulses keeping the Benzite defenders off balance. As they fought their way deeper into the complex, Jesse's comm unit came to life. Hawkins' voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, we've made contact with Opal's faction. Proceeding to Zorn's bunker now." "Copy that, Sergeant. Stay alert. This could still be a trap." Jesse's team reached the isotope storage unit, securing their primary objective. As they began to download additional Benzite data, the facility shook with a massive explosion. "Sir," Rice called out, "Benzite reinforcements incoming. They're bringing in heavy weapons." Jesse gritted his teeth, knowing their window of opportunity was closing fast. "Download what you can. We're leaving in 2 minutes." As they prepared to extract, Jesse's thoughts turned to Hawkins and his team. They were deep in enemy territory, attempting to capture one of the most dangerous beings on the planet. The success of their mission could mean the difference between victory and annihilation for humanity. With alarms blaring and the sound of approaching Benzite forces growing louder, Jesse knew that the next few hours would be crucial. They had what they came for, but the real battle was just beginning. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and it was up to them to tip the scales. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and it was up to them to tip the odds in humanity's favor. As Jesse's team fought their way out of the Benzite research facility, the comm unit crackled with urgent updates from Hawkins' group. "Sir, we've made contact with Opal and her faction," Hawkins reported, his voice strained with tension. "But there's a complication. Zorn's holed up in a reinforced bunker with some kind of deadman switch. He's threatening an orbital attack if we breach." Jesse's mind raced, processing the new information. "Hold position, Sergeant. We're on our way." The team battled through the chaos-filled streets of Berlin, their hybrid assault rifles spitting a combination of conventional rounds and energy pulses at the Benzite patrols. The city was a war zone, with the sounds of distant explosions and energy weapons fire echoing off crumbling buildings. As they neared Zorn's bunker, Jesse spotted Colonel Muller's resistance fighters engaged in fierce street battles with Benzite reinforcements. The Germans had set up ambushes and sniper nests in the ruins, their vintage weapons proving surprisingly effective against the alien troops. "Muller," Jesse called out, ducking behind a burned-out car. "What's the situation?" The German colonel turned, his face streaked with grime. "We're holding them back, but they keep coming. Whatever's in that bunker, they want it badly." Jesse nodded grimly. "Keep up the pressure. We need to get inside." As they regrouped with Hawkins' team outside the bunker, Dr. Volkov's voice came through their comm units. "Captain Porter, I've been analyzing the data you sent. The isotope you recovered might be the key to enhancing our shield disruptors." Jesse's eyes lit up. "Doc, can you talk us through the modifications?" For the next few minutes, Volkov guided them through a series of adjustments to their equipment. The team worked quickly, integrating the rare isotope into their disruptors. "This should significantly boost their range and power," Volkov explained. "You might be able to disrupt not just local shields, but potentially the communications between Zorn's bunker and the Benzite ships in orbit." As the team prepared for their assault, Opal, the Benzite defector, approached with new intelligence. "Zorn's bunker is a maze of defenses," she said, her alien features set in a grim expression. "But I can guide you to the primary power and communication systems." Jesse nodded, formulating a plan. "Hawkins, You'll lead a team to locate and disable the dead man switch. I'll take a group to confront Zorn directly. Captain Petrova, secure the communication center and disrupt their orbital coordination. The assault began with a coordinated strike using their enhanced shield disruptors. The Benzite defenses flickered and died, allowing the team to breach the outer perimeter. Inside, they faced a gauntlet of elite Benzite guards armed with a mix of energy weapons and reverse-engineered human firearms. Jesse's group fought their way through narrow corridors, the close quarters turning each room into a deadly arena. Their vintage combat techniques proved invaluable as they cleared corners and leapfrogged from cover to cover. "Contact front," Rice shouted, her hybrid assault rifle chattering as she engaged a group of Benzite guards. Jesse ducked under a barrage of energy bolts, rolling to a new position. He came up firing, his weapon's dual-mode fire catching the aliens off guard. As they pushed deeper into the bunker, Hawkins' voice came through the comm. "Sir, we've located the dead man switch control room. Heavy resistance." "Copy that," Jesse replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Petrova, status on the comm center?" "Almost there, Captain," Elena responded, the sounds of combat clear in the background. "These Benzites don't give up easily." Jesse's team finally reached the door to Zorn's command center. They stacked up, ready to breach. Jesse gave the signal, and they burst in, weapons at the ready. Admiral Zorn stood at the center of the room, his alien features twisted in a snarl. "You're too late, humans," he growled. "One wrong move, and I'll unleash hell from orbit." Jesse kept his weapon trained on the Benzite leader. "It's over, Zorn. Your invasion has failed." As they faced off, Jesse's mind raced. The success of their mission hung on disabling that dead man switch without triggering a catastrophic attack. He knew Hawkins and Petrova were in position, waiting for his signal. The fate of Earth balanced on a knife's edge. The next few moments would determine whether humanity would break free from alien domination or face annihilation from the skies. Jesse took a deep breath, ready to make his move in this high-stakes game of interstellar chess. Chess. Jesse's finger tightened on the trigger, his eyes locked on Zorn's alien features. "Stand down, Admiral," Jesse commanded, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Your invasion has failed." Zorn's lips curled into a sneer, his hand hovering over a control panel. "You underestimate me, human. One wrong move, and your world burns." The tension in the room was palpable as Jesse's team spread out, weapons trained on the Benzite leader. Suddenly, Zorn activated a personal energy shield, the air around him shimmering with a faint blue glow. In his other hand, a high-powered energy weapon materialized, its barrel glowing with an ominous light. "This ends now," Zorn growled, his finger inching towards a dead man switch. Jesse's mind raced, calculating their options. He glanced at his team, then back at Zorn. In a split-second decision, he activated his modified shield disruptor. The effect was immediate. Zorn's personal shield flickered and wavered, creating gaps in its protective field. The alien admiral's eyes widened in surprise, his composure faltering for the first time. "Now!" Jesse shouted, and his team sprang into action. They advanced cautiously, their hybrid assault rifles at the ready. The room came alive with the hum of energy weapons and the staccato bursts of conventional gunfire. Holographic displays flickered and sparked as stray shots impacted the alien technology surrounding them. Meanwhile, in another part of the bunker, Sergeant Hawkins and his team had finally located the control room, housing the dead man switch mechanism. As they approached, a squad of elite Benzite guards emerged from concealed positions, their advanced weapons blazing. Hawkins ducked behind a fallen console, bits of alien alloy flying over his head. "Schmidt, Ramirez, left flank," he shouted, falling back on his World War II era training. "Jones, covering fire. The team moved with practiced precision, their hybrid assault rifles switching seamlessly between conventional rounds and energy pulses. The Benzite guards, thrown off by the unpredictable human tactics, struggled to mount an effective defense. Ramirez slid into position behind an overturned alien storage unit. "Frag out!" he yelled, lobbing a grenade into the midst of the Benzite formation. The explosion sent the aliens scrambling, breaking their defensive line. Hawkins seized the opportunity. "Push forward," he commanded, leading the charge into the control room. As Hawkins' team battled for control of the Dead Man's Switch, Captain Elena Petrova's squad faced their own challenges in the communications center. Petrova's fingers flew over the alien console, her brow furrowed in concentration as she worked to sever the bunker's connection to the Benzite orbital fleet. "Incoming!" one of her team members shouted as another wave of Benzite reinforcements stormed the room. Petrova didn't look up from her work. "Hold them off! We can't let them reestablish the link." Her team formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons creating a wall of fire that kept the Benzite forces at bay. The air crackled with energy discharges and the sharp report of gunfire. Outside the bunker, the streets of Berlin had become a war zone. Colonel Hans Muller's resistance fighters engaged the Benzite forces in fierce urban combat. The sound of vintage MG-42 machine guns mixed with the whine of alien energy weapons, creating a cacophony of destruction. Muller, crouched behind the burnout husk of a car, shouted orders to his fighters. "Keep them pinned down. Don't let them reach the bunker." A young resistance fighter ran up to Muller, breathing heavily. "Colonel, vas-y dropship coming." Muller's eyes narrowed. He grabbed a Panzerfaust anti-tank weapon from a nearby cache. "Let's give them a proper German welcome, shall we?" Back in the command center, Jesse's team had managed to corner Admiral Zorn. The alien leader's shield was failing, fluctuating wildly under the constant assault of the modified disruptors. Zorn, his back literally against the wall, snarled at Jesse. "You don't understand what you're doing, human. Kill me, and your world dies with me." Jesse paused, his weapon still trained on Zorn. "Explain," he demanded. "The Dead Man's Switch," Zorn spat, "is linked to my vital signs. The moment my heart stops, your cities burn." The revelation hit Jesse like a physical blow. He quickly reassessed their strategy, knowing that one wrong move could spell disaster for Earth. "Sir," Rice called out, her voice tense. "What's the play?" Jesse's mind raced, processing the information from Opal's faction, the capabilities of their modified equipment, and the alien technology surrounding them. An idea began to form, daring and desperate. "We're going to put him on ice," Jesse announced, his voice filled with unyielding commitment. "Rice, Martinez, recalibrate your disruptors. We're going to create a localized stasis field." As his team worked to implement the risky plan, Jesse kept his eyes locked on Zorn. The alien admiral watched warily, clearly uncertain of what the humans were attempting. In the control room, Hawkins' team had finally gained access to the Dead Man's Switch's core systems. Hawkins leaned over the alien console, his eyes darting across the complex network of fail-safes and redundancies. "It's like nothing I've ever seen," he muttered, his mind already working to decipher the alien protocols. Drawing on his experience with World War II code-breaking techniques, Hawkins began the painstaking process of unraveling the Benzite command structure. Petrova's voice crackled over the comm system. "Captain Porter, we've cut the primary communication links, but we've discovered a backup system. Working to disable it now." Jesse acknowledged the update, his focus never wavering from Zorn. The modified disruptors hummed to life, creating a shimmering field of energy around the Benzite admiral. "What are you doing?" Zorn demanded, a note of fear creeping into his voice for the first time. Jesse's expression was grim. "Putting you in timeout, Admiral. Let's see if we can't take you off the board without flipping it." The energy field intensified, enveloping Zorn in a cocoon of shifting light. The alien leader's movements began to slow, his features freezing in a mask of rage and disbelief. As the stasis field stabilized, Jesse turned his attention to the larger battle. Reports were flooding in from around the globe, indicating that human forces were making significant gains against the Benzite occupiers. The disruption of the alien command structure had thrown the invasion force into disarray. But the war was not nearly finished. The success of their mission in Berlin could tip the balance, but one wrong move could still spell disaster for humanity. Jesse knew that the next few moments would be crucial, not just for their team, but for the entire planet. With Zorn neutralized, at least temporarily, Jesse opened a channel to Hawkins and Petrova. Status report, he demanded, knowing that their next actions could determine the fate of Earth itself. Status report, Jesse demanded, his eyes still fixed on the shimmering stasis field surrounding Admiral Zorn. Hawkins' voice crackled through the comm. Sir, we've made progress on the dead man switch. I've identified a pattern in their encryption, but it's complex. We need more time. Time we don't have, Jesse muttered. He turned to his team. Rice, Martinez, maintain that field. We can't risk Zorn breaking free. As if on cue, the stasis field flickered, causing everyone to tense. Zorn's frozen form seemed to twitch, his eyes bulging with rage. Stabilize it, Jesse barked, and his team scrambled to adjust their disruptors. The field pulsed, then steadied. Zorn remained suspended, but Jesse knew they were walking a razor's edge. Petrova's voice cut through the tension. Captain, we've severed the primary communication links, but there's a problem. We've detected a backup system, and the Benzites are launching a counterattack to retake the comm center. Jesse's mind raced, processing the new information. Hold your position, Petrova. We can't let them reestablish contact with their fleet. He turned to his team. We need to end this now. Hawkins, keep working on that switch. Petrova, fortify your defenses. I'm taking a team to find that backup system. Jesse selected 2 of his squad and moved towards the exit. As they reached the door, a barrage of energy bolts forced them back. Contact, shouted Martinez, dropping to one knee and returning fire. The air filled with the distinctive whine of hybrid assault rifles as Jesse's team engaged the Benzite reinforcements. Energy pulses mixed with conventional rounds, creating a deadly crossfire in the narrow corridor. Jesse rolled to cover behind an alien console. Rice, get that door sealed. We can't let them reach Zorn. Rice nodded, her fingers flying over the alien controls. The door hissed shut, cutting off the Benzite advance. That won't hold them for long, Jesse said, catching his breath. We need to move. They pushed deeper into the bunker, using their modified scanners to search for the hidden backup system. The corridors twisted and turned, a maze of alien technology and pulsing energy conduits. Suddenly, Jesse's scanner beeped. He held up a fist, signaling his team to halt. I've got something behind this wall. Martinez placed a breaching charge on the seemingly solid surface. With a muffled thump, the wall disintegrated, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, a group of Benzite scientists looked up in shock. One reached for a weapon, but Jesse was faster. His hybrid assault rifle chattered, dropping the alien before it could fire. Secure the room, Jesse ordered as his team poured in. The firefight was brief but intense. The close quarters favored the humans' adaptability, and within moments, the Benzite scientists were neutralized. Jesse approached the central console, its displays flickering with alien script. This has to be it, the backup system. He activated his comm. Hawkins, I've found something. Sending you a data feed now. Hawkins' voice came back, tense with concentration. I see it, Captain. This changes everything. The dead man switch isn't just linked to Zorn's vitals. There's a secondary trigger in that system you found. Jesse's blood ran cold. Even with Zorn in stasis, the orbital attack could still be launched. Can you disable it? Working on it, Hawkins replied. But sir, there's more. I'm detecting a signal from orbit. A faction of the Benzite fleet is preparing for a final assault on Earth's population centers. Jesse cursed under his breath. Petrova, did you copy that? Affirmative, came the strained reply, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. We're under heavy attack here, but I'll do what I can to warn Earth's defenses. The situation was spiraling out of control. Jesse knew the next few minutes would determine the fate of the entire planet. Hawkins, focus on disabling that secondary trigger. Petrova, hold that comm center at all costs. We need to buy more time. Jesse turned to his team. We're going to use this console to disrupt the Benzite command structure. If we can sow enough chaos in their ranks, we might just give Earth a fighting chance. As they worked feverishly at the alien controls, explosions rocked the bunker. The Benzites were pushing hard, determined to retake control. Jesse's fingers flew over the console, using the captured data to infiltrate the Benzite communication network. He began transmitting conflicting orders, false retreat signals, and misleading targeting data to the orbiting fleet. Sir, Martinez called out. More Benzite forces converging on our position. Jesse gritted his teeth. They were so close, but time was running out. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with victory or annihilation separated by a razor-thin margin. As alarms blared and the sounds of battle drew nearer, Jesse and his team fought on, knowing that their actions in these crucial moments could change the course of history. The war for Earth had reached its tipping point, and the next move would determine whether humanity would rise from the ashes of invasion or face extinction at the hands of their alien oppressors. Jesse's fingers flew across the alien console, his mind racing as he input conflicting orders and false retreat signals. The chaos he was sowing in the Benzite ranks might just give Earth the edge it needed. But as explosions rocked the bunker and the sounds of battle drew nearer, he knew their time was running out. Sir, Martinez called out, his voice tight with urgency. More Benzite forces converging on our position. Jesse gritted his teeth, about to respond when his comm crackled to life. Captain Porter, Hawkins' voice came through, strained but determined. I've made a breakthrough on the primary dead man switch, but there's a complication. A series of fail-safes are activating. There's a secondary system somewhere in the bunker, and it's becoming critical to the threat. Understood, Jesse replied, his mind already formulating a plan. We need to find that secondary system. Now. He turned to his team, their faces illuminated by the flickering alien displays. We're moving out. Our new objective is to locate and neutralize the secondary dead man switch. As they exited the room, the distant sound of energy weapons and gunfire grew louder. Jesse led his team through the twisting corridors, their hybrid assault rifles at the ready. They moved with practiced efficiency, each step bringing them closer to their goal, and to the Benzite forces determined to stop them. Rounding a corner, they encountered their first obstacle. A group of Benzite loyalists had established a defensive perimeter at the entrance to a heavily fortified section of the bunker. Energy weapons and reverse-engineered human firearms created a deadly crossfire, pinning Jesse's team in place. Looks like we found our secondary system, Jesse muttered, his mind already analyzing the situation. The tactics of a long-ago war came to him, and he knew what they had to do. Listen up, he addressed his team, keeping his voice low. We're going to use leapfrog tactics. Suppressing fire, then advance in short bursts. Use any cover you can find. The team nodded, their grip tightening on their weapons. Jesse gave the signal, and they sprang into action. The corridor filled with the chatter of hybrid assault rifles as they laid down, suppressing fire. Jesse watched as Martinez darted forward, sliding behind a twisted piece of alien machinery. "Move!" Jesse shouted, and another team member sprinted ahead, taking cover behind a section of collapsed wall. They advanced steadily, the Benzite defenses weakening under their coordinated assault. But as they neared the fortified entrance, a new threat emerged. Automated defense turrets activated, filling the air with deadly energy beams. Jesse cursed under his breath, quickly reassessing their approach. "Shield disruptors," he called out. "Create gaps in their firing patterns. We'll advance through the openings." The team responded immediately, their modified equipment humming to life. The air shimmered as localized disruptions appeared in the turret's field of fire. Jesse watched, waiting for the right moment. "Now!" he shouted, and they surged forward, ducking through the temporary safe zones created by their disruptors. As they pushed closer to the entrance, Private Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, the power conduits for the turrets, they're exposed at the junctions." Jesse spotted what Rodriguez had seen, a vulnerability in the Benzite defenses. "Take the shot, Rodriguez!" Rodriguez switched his rifle to precision fire mode, his aim steady despite the chaos around him. 3 quick shots rang out, and sections of the defense system went dark as the damaged conduits failed. "Final push," Jesse ordered, leading the charge towards the weakened defenses. The team engaged in fierce close-quarters combat with the remaining Benzite defenders. The aliens fought with desperation, but Jesse's team had the advantage of adaptability. They used their environment, ducking behind alien consoles and using the narrow corridors to outmaneuver their opponents. With a final burst of gunfire, the last Benzite fell. Jesse approached the sealed entrance, his breath coming in short gasps. "Breach it," he ordered. Martinez set the charge, and moments later, they were inside the hidden chamber. The sight that greeted them was unlike anything they had encountered before, a complex array of pulsing alien technology that had to be the secondary Deadman switch system. Jesse activated his comm DR. "Volkov, we've found the secondary system. We need your expertise." The scientist's voice came through, calm and focused. "I'm connected to your feed, Captain. This is extraordinary. Give me a moment to analyze." As Volkov worked, Jesse's team secured the room, their senses alert for any counterattack. The minutes stretched on, filled with tense silence broken only by the hum of alien machinery. Finally, Volkov spoke. "I believe I understand the system's core functions. Captain, I can guide you through the disabling process, but it must be done with extreme precision. One wrong move could trigger the very attack we're trying to prevent." Jesse took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Understood, Doctor. We're ready. Walk us through it." As Volkov began his instructions, Jesse's hands moved over the alien controls. Each action was deliberate, calculated. The fate of the entire planet rested on their ability to neutralize this system without triggering a catastrophic response. Time seemed to slow as they worked, the tension in the room palpable. But with each passing moment, each carefully executed step, they drew closer to their goal. The alien technology began to power down, its pulsing glow fading. Just as the final sequence was initiated, Hawkins' voice came through the comm. "Captain, the primary Deadman switch is offline. We've done it." A collective sigh of relief passed through the team, but Jesse knew their work was a long way to go. The immediate threat of orbital bombardment had been averted, but a fanatical faction of the Benzite fleet remained a deadly threat to Earth. As they secured the now dormant secondary system, Jesse's mind was already turning to the next phase of their mission. They had won a crucial victory, but the ultimate battle for humanity's survival still lay ahead, and it would be fought not on the ground, but among the stars. "All right, team," Jesse said, his voice filled with steadfast perseverance. Let's get what we need from these systems and prepare to move out. Our next stop is Orbit, the orbiting Benzite fleet. Jesse's calm crackled to life. Captain Porter, this is Admiral Hayes. We need you and your team at the Berlin underground hangar immediately. The situation has escalated. Copy that, Admiral. We're on our way, Jesse replied, motioning for his team to move out. They emerged from the bunker into the chaos of Berlin's war-torn streets. The acrid smell of smoke and ozone filled the air as Colonel Hans Muller's resistance fighters engaged the remaining Benzite ground forces. Energy weapons sizzled overhead, and the ground shook with nearby explosions. Jesse led his team through the rubble-strewn alleys, their path illuminated by the eerie glow of burning buildings. They moved swiftly, ducking behind overturned vehicles and crumbling walls to avoid stray fire. As they approached the hidden entrance to the underground hangar, Jesse caught sight of a group of Benzite soldiers advancing on their position. He signaled his team to take cover, then opened fire with his hybrid assault rifle. The alien weaponry integrated into the rifle sent pulses of energy tearing through the Benzite ranks, dropping several before they could react. Martinez and Rodriguez provided covering fire as Jesse and the others made a final sprint for the hangar entrance. The massive doors slid open just enough to allow them entry before slamming shut behind them, muffling the sounds of battle outside. Inside, the hangar buzzed with frantic activity. Crews swarmed over an assortment of vessels, a hodgepodge fleet of repurposed military satellites, modified civilian spacecraft, and experimental prototypes. The air was thick with the smell of fuel and ozone, punctuated by the hiss of welding torches and the clang of tools. Admiral Jonathan Hayes, a tall man with close-cropped gray hair and the bearing of a career military officer, approached Jesse's team. Captain Porter, glad you made it. We don't have much time. Hayes led them to a holographic display showing Earth and the surrounding orbital space. Red dots indicated the positions of Benzite ships, while blue represented Earth's defenses. The good news is that a significant portion of the Benzite fleet has begun to retreat, Hayes explained, his voice tense. The bad news is that a smaller, highly fanatical group remains. They're positioning themselves for a final, devastating attack on our major population centers. Jesse nodded, his mind already racing with tactical possibilities. Sir, we've gathered crucial intelligence about the Benzite ship's vulnerabilities and command structure from the bunker. It could give us an edge. Hayes' eyes lit up. Excellent work, Captain. Our techs will incorporate that data into our attack plan immediately. As the Admiral's staff began to formulate a strategy, Hayes turned back to Jesse's team. We're assigning each of you to different roles within the fleet. Sergeant Hawkins, you'll be piloting one of our lead assault craft. Captain Petrova, your electronic warfare expertise will be crucial. You will command a vessel specializing in communication disruption and cyber attacks. He then fixed his gaze on Jesse. Captain Porter, you'll be commanding a special ship we call the Thunderbolt. It's outfitted for close-quarter space combat and equipped with a unique weapon system that combines retrofitted World War II-era tech with captured alien technology. Jesse's eyebrows rose as he took in the implications. A blend of old and new, just crazy enough to work against the Benzites. Hayes nodded grimly. That's the idea. Your main armament is a massive railgun inspired by naval artillery. It fires projectiles at speeds that can penetrate Benzite shields. We're hoping it will give us the edge we need. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the hangar. A technician rushed up to Hayes, her face pale. Admiral, we've got incoming. The fanatical Benzite faction has begun their descent towards Earth atmosphere. Hayes cursed under his breath. We're out of time. All ships, prepare for immediate launch. We'll have to coordinate our attack plan in orbit. Jesse and his team sprinted to their assigned vessels. As he climbed aboard the Thunderbolt, Jesse took a moment to marvel at the ship's interior. The bridge was a fusion of familiar human controls and alien technology, centered around the targeting system for the massive railgun. "All systems online, Captain," reported the Thunderbolt's weapons officer, her fingers dancing over the hybrid controls. Jesse strapped himself into the command chair, feeling the ship vibrate as its engines roared to life. "Thunderbolt ready for launch," he reported over the comm. The hangar doors above them slid open, revealing a night sky ablaze with the light of battle. One by one, Earth's hastily assembled fleet rose into the air, accelerating towards the looming confrontation in orbit. As the Thunderbolt ascended through the atmosphere, Jesse watched streaks of light crisscross the sky. Energy weapons and missiles exchanged between Benzite ships and Earth's early defense systems. The enormity of the task ahead settled over him like a weight. They broke through into low Earth orbit, and Jesse immediately spotted a group of Benzite destroyers attempting to breach the planet's defensive perimeter. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Let's show them what this old-new hybrid can do." The Thunderbolt's engines flared as Jesse maneuvered the ship towards the alien vessels. "Weapons, target the lead destroyer. Let's see what this railgun can do." The ship shuddered as the massive weapon fired, sending a hypersonic projectile streaking towards the Benzite ship. It struck with devastating force, punching through the alien shields and tearing a gaping hole in the destroyer's hull. "Direct hit!" shouted the weapons officer, her voice filled with a mix of surprise and elation. Jesse allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. Now let's press our advantage. All ships in range, concentrate fire on that breach." As the space battle intensified around them, Jesse coordinated with the other Earth vessels, employing tactics inspired by historical naval and aerial combat. The human ships used their smaller size and greater maneuverability to outflank the larger Benzite vessels, focusing their attacks on the weak points identified by the intelligence from the Berlin bunker. Through the chaos of battle, Jesse caught sight of Captain Petrova's electronic warfare ship, its arrays pulsing with energy as it jammed Benzite communications and disrupted their coordinated attacks. The alien ships began to move erratically, their formation breaking apart under the combined assault of physical and electronic warfare. But even as they gained ground, Jesse knew the hardest part of the battle was yet to come. On the edge of his tactical display, he saw a massive signal approaching, the Benzite flagship, moving into position for a final, devastating strike against Earth. Jesse's mind raced, formulating a plan. The Thunderbolt's unique capabilities might be their only chance to take out the alien command ship and end this war once and for all. As he prepared to brief his crew on the daring maneuver he had in mind, a new signal caught his attention. A group of Benzite ships, previously marked as part of the retreating faction, suddenly changed course. For a moment, Jesse feared a trap, but then he realized these ships were moving to engage their fanatical brethren, creating chaos in the Benzite ranks. "Looks like Captain Petrova's diplomatic efforts paid off," Jesse muttered, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. He opened a channel to Admiral Hayes. "Sir, I have a plan to take out the Benzite flagship, but it's going to be risky." Hayes' voice came back, tense but resolute. "At this point, Captain, risky is all we've got. What did you have in mind?" As Jesse outlined his strategy, he watched the massive Benzite flagship, growing larger on the Thunderbolt's view screen. The fate of Earth would be decided in the next few moments, and Jesse knew that everything, the desperate ground battles, the frantic launch, the intelligence they had gathered, had led to this point. He took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. "All hands," he called out to his crew. "Prepare for close-quarters engagement. We're taking the fight directly to their doorstep." The Thunderbolt's engines flared to life as Jesse set course for the heart of the Benzite fleet. Around them, the battle for Earth's survival raged on, a desperate struggle played out against the backdrop of stars. The vast expanse of space. The Thunderbolt's engines roared as Jesse pushed them to their limits, dodging energy blasts and debris as they close in on the Benzite flagship. His grip tightened on the controls, eyes darting between the view screen and tactical displays. "Deploy the particle cloud," Jesse ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The weapons officer's fingers flew over the controls. "Particle cloud deployed, Captain." A shimmering haze erupted from the Thunderbolt, expanding rapidly to engulf the area around the Benzite flagship. The massive alien vessel's energy weapons sputtered and misfired, its sensors temporarily blinded by the microscopic particles. "Now, launch the modified missiles," Jesse commanded. The ship shuddered as a barrage of missiles streaked towards the flagship. Jesse watched intently as they penetrated the weakened shields, detonating against the outer hull in a series of brilliant explosions. Chunks of alien metal spun away into the void, revealing the vulnerable systems beneath. "Direct hits confirmed," reported the tactical officer. "Enemy shields are down, and we've breached their hull." Jesse nodded grimly. "Take us in closer. Prepare the railgun for a precision strike on their exposed reactor core." As the Thunderbolt maneuvered into position, the Benzite vessel unleashed a desperate counterattack. Energy bolts and plasma torpedoes filled the space around them, creating a deadly obstacle course. The ship rocked violently as a plasma torpedo grazed their port side. Alarms blared, and acrid smoke filled the bridge. "Damage report," Jesse called out, fighting to keep the ship steady. "Port thrusters are offline," the engineering officer responded, her voice strained. "We've lost auxiliary power to decks 3 through 5. Multiple hull breaches, but emergency force fields are holding." Jesse gritted his teeth, adjusting their approach to compensate for the damaged systems. "Maintain course. We've got one shot at this." The Thunderbolt closed in on the flagship's exposed reactor core, weaving through the storm of enemy fire. Jesse's hands moved with practiced precision, guiding the ship into optimal firing position. "Railgun charged and ready, Captain," the weapons officer announced. Jesse took a deep breath, his finger hovering over the fire control. "Fire!" The ship bucked as the railgun discharged, sending its specially designed projectile hurtling towards the Benzite vessel at incredible velocity. Time seemed to slow as Jesse watched the round streak across space, crossing the distance in a fraction of a second. The impact was spectacular. The projectile punched through the exposed systems and detonated inside the reactor core. A blinding flash erupted from within the Benzite flagship, followed by a series of secondary explosions that ripped through its superstructure. "Directed on the reactor," the tactical officer shouted, unable to contain her excitement. "The Benzite flagship is breaking up." Jesse didn't allow himself a moment of celebration. "All engines reverse. Get us out of here, now." The Thunderbolt's engines flared as they retreated from the disintegrating alien vessel. Fragments of the flagship pelted their hull, each impact reverberating through the ship. As they reached a safe distance, Jesse opened a channel to Admiral Hayes. "Sir, the Benzite flagship has been neutralized." Hayes' voice came back, tinged with both relief and urgency. "Excellent work, Captain Porter. But we're not out of the woods yet. A group of Benzite ships have broken through our orbital defenses. They're on a collision course with major population centers." Jesse's mind raced, quickly assessing their options. "Understood, Admiral. The Thunderbolt will lead the interception team." Despite the damage they'd sustained, Jesse knew his ship was still the best equipped to handle this threat. He quickly assembled a group of interceptors, coordinating with their pilots as they entered Earth's atmosphere in pursuit of the Benzite kamikazes. The chase was intense, pushing both ships and crews to their limits. Jesse's experience in both space and aerial combat proved invaluable as he guided the interception efforts. The Thunderbolt's remaining missiles found their marks, destroying 2 of the descending Benzite ships in brilliant explosions that lit up the sky. But one Benzite vessel, more heavily armored than the others, continued its deadly descent. Conventional weapons bounced harmlessly off its reinforced hull. Jesse's mind raced, considering and discarding options in rapid succession. With a sudden clarity, he realized there was only one way to stop the alien ship before it reached its target. "All hands, brace for impact," Jesse announced, his voice calm despite the gravity of his decision. "We're going to ram it." The crew responded with relentless drive, securing themselves as best they could. Jesse pushed the Thunderbolt's engines beyond their safe limits, closing the distance to the Benzite ship rapidly. The impact was catastrophic. Metal screamed and tore as the two vessels collided. The Benzite ship, knocked off its trajectory, tumbled helplessly towards the ocean below. But the Thunderbolt had paid a heavy price for the maneuver. Warning klaxons blared as systems failed across the ship. The hull groaned ominously, structural integrity failing. "Abandon ship," Jesse ordered, already moving towards the nearest escape pod. "Everyone out now." The crew scrambled to evacuate as the Thunderbolt began to break apart around them. Jesse helped injured crew members into escape pods, ensuring everyone was accounted for before entering the last pod himself. As the pod jettisoned, Jesse caught a final glimpse of the Thunderbolt through the small viewport. The ship that had carried them through so much disintegrated in a ball of fire, scattering debris across the upper atmosphere. The descent in the escape pod was rough, buffeted by high-altitude winds. Through the viewport, Jesse watched the final moments of the space battle unfold. The remaining Benzite ships, their flagship destroyed and their ground assault thwarted, began powering down their weapons. The pod splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, bobbing in the waves as Jesse and his crew waited for rescue. It wasn't long before they spotted a naval vessel approaching, its deck crowded with medical personnel and other rescue workers. As they were brought aboard the aircraft carrier, Jesse's mind was already turning to the challenges that lay ahead. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the work of rebuilding and safeguarding Earth's future was just beginning. An officer approached Jesse as he stepped onto the carrier's deck. "Captain Porter, Admiral Hayes requests your presence in the command center immediately. We have reports coming in from around the world about Benzite surrenders, and we need to formulate our next steps." Jesse nodded, following the officer below decks. The battle was over, but a new chapter in human history was about to begin. The sudden shift from the chaos of battle to the organized bustle of the carrier's command center was jarring, but Jesse quickly refocused on the task at hand. Admiral Hayes stood at the center of the room, surrounded by a flurry of activity as reports streamed in from around the globe. He turned to Jesse as he entered, his expression a mix of relief and grit. "Captain Porter, glad to see you in one piece," Hayes said, gesturing for Jesse to join him at the central tactical display. "We've got Benzite surrender reports coming in from every continent. It seems your strike against their flagship was the turning point we needed." Jesse nodded, studying the holographic map before them. Green indicators representing Earth forces were steadily pushing back the dwindling red markers of Benzite resistance. "What's our next move, sir?" Jesse asked, his mind already racing with possibilities. Hayes swiped across the display, bringing up a new set of data. "We're shifting into recovery mode. I'm putting you in charge of overseeing the integration of captured Benzite tech into our defense systems. Dr. Volkov has made some promising breakthroughs with their FDL technology, and I want you two working closely together." "Understood, Admiral," Jesse replied, his eyes scanning the schematics of alien equipment now filling the screen. "Where will we be based?" "Berlin," Hayes answered. "We're setting up a research facility in the ruins of that Benzite bunker. It's a gold mine of alien tech, and we need to make the most of it." As they discussed the details of the new assignment, an officer approached with an urgent message. Hayes read it quickly, his brow furrowing. "Change of plans, Porter," he said, looking up from the message. "We've got a situation developing on the moon. I'm heading up there to oversee the establishment of a detention facility for Benzite prisoners. I need you to take point on coordinating our global reconstruction efforts from here." Jesse straightened, feeling the weight of the responsibility settling on his shoulders. "I won't let you down, sir." Over the next few weeks, Jesse found himself at the heart of Earth's recovery operations. The carrier became a floating command center, coordinating everything from debris cleanup to the distribution of medical supplies. Jesse worked tirelessly, managing teams across multiple time zones and juggling countless priorities. One morning, as Jesse reviewed the latest progress reports, a familiar face appeared on the command center's main screen. Captain Porter. Dr. Nikolai Volkov greeted him, his eyes bright with excitement despite the visible exhaustion on his face. "I have news from Berlin." Jesse leaned forward, intrigued. "What have you got for me, Doctor?" Volkov's image was replaced by a complex diagram. "We've made a breakthrough in understanding the Benzite's FDL drive. With some modifications, we believe we can adapt it for human use." Jesse studied the diagram, his mind racing with the implications. "That's incredible, Doctor. How soon can we have a prototype?" "We're already working on one," Volkov replied, his image reappearing. "But there's more. We've uncovered data in the Benzite systems, suggesting the existence of other alien civilizations. Some known to the Benzites, others not." Jesse felt a mix of excitement and apprehension at this revelation. "Have you informed Admiral Hayes?" Volkov nodded. "He's been briefed. The Admiral wants us to accelerate our efforts. He's talking about building Earth's first interstellar spacecraft." As Jesse processed this information, another alert flashed on his screen. It was a message from Sergeant Mike Hawkins, now leading a task force focused on adapting Benzite weapons technology. "Captain," Hawkins' gruff voice came through the speakers, "you need to see this." The screen split, showing Hawkins standing in what appeared to be a high-tech firing range. He held up a sleek, alien-looking rifle. "We've managed to combine Benzite energy weapons with our own projectile technology," Hawkins explained, his voice tinged with pride. "This hybrid assault rifle packs twice the punch of our standard issue, with improved accuracy and reduced recoil." Jesse watched as Hawkins demonstrated the weapon, its powerful energy bolts obliterating a series of hardened targets. "Impressive work, Sergeant," Jesse commended. "How soon can we begin mass production?" Before Hawkins could respond, another incoming transmission cut in. It was Captain Elena Petrova, her face etched with urgency. "Captain Porter, we have a situation," she said without preamble. "The quantum suspension containing Admiral Zorn is showing signs of instability. We need to move him to a more secure facility immediately." Jesse's mind raced, quickly assessing the potential risks and opportunities. "Understood, Captain. Prepare for immediate transport to the secure facility in Switzerland. I want our best scientists and any cooperative Benzite defectors on standby for his revival and interrogation." As Jesse coordinated the complex logistics of moving the captured Benzite leader, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in human history. The defeat of the Benzite invasion force had opened up a universe of possibilities and potential threats that humanity was only beginning to comprehend. With Earth's defense and recovery efforts in full swing, Jesse found himself at the nexus of scientific discovery, military advancement, and the dawn of a new era of interstellar exploration. As he issued orders and reviewed reports, his gaze often drifted to the stars visible through the carrier's viewport, wondering what new challenges and adventures awaited humanity in the vast expanse of space. Space. The immensity of the task ahead deeply affected on Jesse's mind, but he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the immediate challenges. His contemplation was interrupted by an urgent transmission from the Swiss facility. "Captain Porter." The voice of Dr. Eliza Chen, lead scientist on the Zorn project, crackled through the speakers. We need you here immediately. There's been a development with Admiral Zorn. Jesse's pulse quickened. I'm on my way, he replied, already moving towards the carrier's flight deck. Within minutes, he was aboard a hypersonic transport, racing towards the underground complex nestled in the Swiss Alps. The facility was a marvel of engineering, its reinforced walls burrowing deep into the mountain. As Jesse made his way through layers of security, he could feel the tension in the air. Scientists and military personnel moved with purpose, their faces etched with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Dr. Chin met him at the entrance to the interrogation wing. "Captain, we've made a breakthrough," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've managed to stabilize the quantum suspension field. Zorn is conscious and cooperative." Jesse raised an eyebrow. "Cooperative? That's unexpected." They entered the observation room, a bank of monitors displaying various angles of the interrogation chamber. Through the one-way glass, Jesse could see Admiral Zorn, the Benzite leader looking decidedly less imposing than during their space battles. He sat at a metal table, his tentacles restrained, surrounded by an array of truth detection devices. "We've been using a combination of advanced neural mapping and psionic resonance techniques," Dr. Chin explained, gesturing to the equipment. "It's allowing us to verify his statements with unprecedented accuracy." Jesse nodded, his gaze fixed on the alien. "What has he told us?" "That's why we need you here," Dr. Chin replied. "He's revealed information about an approaching fleet. We need your expertise to determine our next steps." Jesse entered the interrogation room, the air thick with tension. Zorn's eyes followed him, a mix of resignation and something Jesse couldn't quite identify. Respect, perhaps? "Admiral Zorn," Jesse began, taking a seat across from the Benzite. "I understand you have information for us." Zorn's tentacles twitched, a gesture Jesse had come to recognize as nervousness. "Captain Porter," the alien's voice was a low rumble, "your species is proven more formidable than we anticipated. It seems I have misjudged not only your capabilities, but also the consequences of our actions." Jesse leaned forward, his voice level. "Explain." "The fleet approaching your system," Zorn continued. "It belongs to the Galactic Conclave, a coalition of advanced species that governs much of this sector. Our invasion of Earth was unsanctioned." Jesse's mind raced with the implications. "And this conclave, what are their intentions?" "Unknown," Zorn admitted. "But given our unauthorized actions, it's likely they've come to investigate and potentially intervene." The interrogation continued for hours, with Jesse pressing for every detail Zorn could provide about the conclave, their technology, and their likely intentions. As the session concluded, Jesse's comm unit buzzed with an urgent message from Dr. Volkov. "Captain," Volkov's voice was filled with excitement. "We've done it. The FDL satellite is ready for long-range communication." Jesse's pulse quickened. "Excellent work, Doctor. Stand by for further instructions." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Jesse convened an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership, presenting Zorn's information and outlining a bold plan to establish contact with the Conclave before they entered the solar system. "It's a risk," Jesse concluded, addressing the assembled leaders. "But it's our best chance to control the narrative and potentially avoid a conflict." After intense debate, the plan was approved. Jesse coordinated with Dr. Volkov's team to prepare the message, while simultaneously overseeing the rapid deployment of Earth's new hybrid defense systems. Sergeant Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm as Jesse monitored the defense preparations. "Shield generators are online, Captain. Weapon platforms are at 85% capacity and climbing." "Keep pushing, Sergeant," Jesse replied. "I want us at full readiness before we transmit." Meanwhile, Captain Petrova reported on the progress of Earth's fledgling space fleet. We've run multiple combat simulations, Captain Porter. Our pilots are adapting quickly to the hybrid ships. As the preparations neared completion, Jesse gathered with Dr. Volkov and a team of linguists to finalize the message to the conclave. They crafted a careful explanation of Earth's situation, emphasizing humanity's successful defense against the Benzites and their desire for peaceful contact. With everything in place, Jesse gave the order, "Transmit the message." The FDL satellite hummed to life, its advanced systems sending the communication faster than light towards the approaching fleet. The wait that followed was tense, filled with nervous energy as Earth's defenses remained on high alert. Hours passed with no response. Jesse was reviewing defense protocols when suddenly, alarms blared across the command center. "Multiple contacts," an officer shouted. "Conclave ships breaking formation and accelerating towards the system." Jesse's voice cut through the chaos. "Battle stations. Activate the planetary shield. All defense platforms to full power." As Earth's military machine sprang into action, Jesse watched the tactical displays, his mind racing with possibilities. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the next few moments would determine whether they faced a new ally or another invasion force. The lead conclave ship dropped out of FDL at the edge of the solar system, its size and technological sophistication evident even at this distance. A tense silence fell over the command center as they waited for the alien vessel's next move. Suddenly, a transmission cut through the silence, broadcast on multiple frequencies and in various Earth languages. "Greetings, people of Earth. We come in peace and request permission to approach for diplomatic contact." Jesse exchanged glances with the other leaders present. This was the moment they had prepared for, the culmination of weeks of intense work and preparation. With a deep breath, he opened a channel to respond, knowing that his next words could shape the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. "Come." Jesse took a deep breath, his fingers hovering over the transmit button. With a decisive press, he sent humanity's response to the conclave's greeting. "This is Captain Jesse Porter of Earth. We welcome your peaceful approach and grant permission for diplomatic contact." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as Jesse and his team prepared for the momentous meeting. He carefully selected his delegation. Dr. Nikolai Volkov for his scientific expertise, Captain Elena Petrova for her diplomatic skills, and Sergeant Mike Hawkins for security. As they boarded their specially modified shuttle, a hybrid of human and Benzite technology, Jesse felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The fate of Earth could hinge on this encounter. The journey to the conclave ship was tense but uneventful. As they approached, the alien vessel's immense size became apparent. Its sleek, otherworldly design dwarfed their shuttle, a stark reminder of the technological gap they faced. With a soft thud, their shuttle docked. Jesse exchanged glances with his team, each of them steeling themselves for what lay ahead. The airlock hissed open, revealing a sight that took their breath away. An array of alien species stood before them, each more diverse and exotic than the last. At the forefront was a tall, insectoid creature with iridescent exoskeleton and multifaceted eyes. "Greetings, humans of Earth." The alien's voice reverberated through some unseen translation device. "I am Ambassador ZY. Welcome aboard the conclave ship Harmonious Unity." Jesse stepped forward, extending his hand in a universal gesture of peace. "Thank you, Ambassador. We're honored to be here." As they moved deeper into the ship, the human delegation marveled at the advanced technology surrounding them. Holographic displays flickered in midair, and gravity seemed to shift and adjust with each step. In a vast chamber that served as a conference room, Jesse presented Earth's case. He detailed the Benzite invasion, humanity's desperate struggle, and their ultimate victory through a combination of modern technology and historical weaponry. Ambassador ZY antennae twitched with interest. "Fascinating," Your species' ability to adapt and innovate is remarkable. Tell me, Captain Porter, how did you manage to integrate benzite technology so quickly? Dr. Volkov stepped forward, explaining the intricacies of their reverse engineering efforts. The conclave representatives listened intently, their alien features betraying surprise and curiosity. As discussions progressed, it became clear that the galactic conclave was divided on Earth's situation. Some viewed humanity as a potential threat, while others saw a valuable addition to the interstellar community. Ambassador Zhuai-Xklar's multifaceted eyes gleamed as he proposed a solution. To properly assess Earth's readiness for integration, we propose a series of tests. These will evaluate your technological capabilities, cultural adaptability, and potential for peaceful coexistence. Jesse considered the proposal carefully. It was an opportunity to secure Earth's position, but also a risk. After a brief consultation with his team, he nodded. "We accept your challenge, Ambassador." The first test began immediately. Dr. Volkov presented the conclave scientists with a modified version of the hybrid assault rifle. He demonstrated its ability to switch seamlessly between conventional ammunition and energy-based projectiles. The alien scientists crowded around the weapon, their appendages moving in excited gestures as they examined its design. One of them, a being with translucent skin and visible inner workings, spoke up. "This integration of disparate technologies is unexpected. Most species choose one path and adhere to it." Next came the astronomical puzzle. Captain Petrova led a team of human scientists in tackling the complex problem of predicting a volatile star's behavior. They combined advanced benzite algorithms with traditional human astronomical techniques, working furiously as the conclave observers watched. When they presented their results, a ripple of surprise passed through the alien delegation. Ambassador Zhuai-Xklar's antennae quivered. "Your approach was unconventional, yet highly effective. You continue to surprise us, humans." The final test focused on cultural exchange. Sergeant Hawkins, usually more comfortable with weapons than words, gave a passionate presentation on Earth's diverse cultures and history. He emphasized humanity's ability to learn from past conflicts and work towards unity. As Hawkins spoke, holographic images of Earth's art, music, and literature filled the chamber. The conclave representatives watched in rapt attention, their alien features displaying a range of emotions. Just as the test concluded, an alarm blared through the ship. Ambassador Zhuai-Xklar's exoskeleton paled. "We have a situation. A Vroktar battlecruiser has broken formation and is taking an aggressive stance towards Earth." Jesse's team sprang into action. They rushed back to their shuttle, preparing for potential conflict. Through the view screen, they could see the menacing form of the Vroktar ship, its weapons primed. As tension mounted, Jesse's mind raced. They had come so far, demonstrated so much. He couldn't let it end in conflict. An idea formed, bold and risky. He opened a channel to Ambassador Zhuai-Xklar. "Ambassador, I have a proposal. One final test to demonstrate Earth's capabilities and our commitment to peace." The ambassador's response was cautious but curious. "Proceed, Captain Porter." Jesse outlined his plan. A simulated space battle between a small human fleet and a conclave task force. It would showcase humanity's tactical prowess and their effective use of hybrid technology, all without risking actual lives or ships. There was a long pause as the conclave leadership deliberated. Finally, Ambassador Zhuai-Xklar's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "We accept your proposal, Captain. Prepare your forces. The simulation will begin in one planetary rotation." As Jesse relayed the news to Earth's leadership and began assembling his team of pilots and tacticians, he knew the stakes couldn't be higher. This simulated battle could determine Earth's fate and its place in the galactic community. With the Vroktar battlecruiser looming ominously in the background, both sides prepared for the engagement. Jesse stood on the bridge of the human flagship, a retrofitted benzite cruiser, surrounded by a mix of seasoned veterans and young officers eager to prove themselves. As the countdown to the simulation began, Jesse addressed his fleet. Remember your training, trust in your skills and in each other. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. The holographic projectors hummed to life, creating a vast starfield around them. Simulated conclave ships materialize, their alien designs a stark contrast to Earth's hybrid fleet. With a final deep breath, Jesse gave the order. All ships engage. Engage. The command echoed through the comm channels, and Earth's hybrid fleet surged forward. Jesse stood on the bridge of the Resilience, his eyes fixed on the holographic display before him. The vastness of space stretched out, dotted with the simulated forms of conclave ships. His mind raced, formulating strategies that would showcase humanity's unique approach to warfare. All ships form up on me, Jesse ordered. We're heading for the asteroid belt. The human fleet moved as one, weaving through the debris field with precision. Massive chunks of rock provided cover as they approached the conclave forces. Jesse watched as the alien ships adjusted their formation, clearly caught off guard by the unorthodox tactic. Now! Jesse shouted, alternate between energy beams and kinetic rounds. Keep them guessing. The space around them lit up with a dazzling display of weapons fire. Energy beams lanced out from human ships, followed immediately by a barrage of physical projectiles. The conclave vessels reeled under the assault, their shields flickering as they struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing attack patterns. On the tactical display, Jesse saw a group of smaller craft breaking off from the main fleet. Sergeant Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. "Strike team moving into position, Captain. We've identified weak points in their shield configuration." "Understood, Sergeant. Hit them hard and fast." Hawkins' squadron darted between the larger conclave ships, their hybrid assault cannons targeting specific points with surgical precision. Explosions blossomed across the alien vessels as the strike team exploited vulnerabilities in their defenses. Captain Petrova's voice cut through the chaos. "Electronic warfare systems fully operational, Captain. Initiating communication, jamming now." The effect was immediate. Several conclave ships began to drift out of formation, their coordinated movements faltering as Petrova's team severed their communication links. Jesse allowed himself a small smile. The human fleet was holding its own, demonstrating the effectiveness of their hybrid technology and unconventional tactics. The satisfaction was short-lived. An alarm blared, and a new contact appeared on the tactical display. The massive form of the Vroktar battlecruiser loomed against the starfield, its weapon systems powering up as it moved to join the fray. "All ships be advised," Jesse called out. "We have a new player entering the field. Adjust formation to engage the Vroktar vessel." He quickly assessed the situation. The Vroktar ship outmatched anything in the human fleet, its size and firepower dwarfing even the largest conclave vessels. They needed a new strategy and fast. "Petrova, redirect half of our electronic warfare efforts to the Vroktar ship," Jesse ordered. "Hawkins, I want your strike team to focus on its propulsion systems. We need to limit its mobility." As his officers acknowledged the commands, Jesse opened a secure channel to Earth. "Dr. Volkov, we're facing an unexpected complication. How soon can we deploy the modified space mines?" "They're prepped and ready, Captain," Volkov replied. "Transmitting deployment coordinates now." Jesse watched as a series of small, unassuming objects materialized in the space around the Vroktar battlecruiser. The alien vessel seemed to pay them no mind, focused as it was on bringing its main weapons to bear on the human fleet. "All ships, fall back to Sector 7, Jesse commanded. "Lure the Vroktar into the minefield." The human fleet executed a coordinated retreat, drawing the massive alien ship into the trap. As the Vroktar crossed the invisible threshold, Jesse gave the signal. The space mines detonated in a cascade of energy and light, battering the alien vessel's shields and disrupting its systems. But the Vroktar battlecruiser was far from defeated. It pushed through the minefield, its powerful weapons tearing through the simulated human ships with frightening ease. Jesse gritted his teeth, realizing that conventional tactics wouldn't be enough. "Dr. Volkov," he said, opening the channel to Earth once more. "It's time. Deploy the FDL disruptor." "Understood, Captain," Volkov replied. "Launching now." A small, unassuming satellite appeared on the tactical display, moving swiftly into position. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a wave of energy pulsed outward, washing over both human and alien ships alike. Jesse felt a subtle shift in the resilience as its FDL drive went offline. All around them, ships began to drift, their faster-than-light capabilities neutralized by the disruptor's effects. "All ships, this is our moment," Jesse announced. "Execute Maneuver Omega-3. Surround the Vroktar and concentrate fire on these coordinates." The human fleet moved with practiced precision, encircling the massive alien vessel. A torrent of hybrid weapons fire converged on specific points of the Vroktar's hull, locations that intelligence gathered from the Benzite conflict had identified as potential weaknesses. Under the relentless assault, the Vroktar battlecruiser's defenses began to fail. Its weapons fell silent, and its engines powered down. The massive ship drifted, effectively neutralized by the combined efforts of the human fleet. As the simulated battle came to an end, a stunned silence fell over the bridge of the Resilience. They had done it, against impossible odds. They had proved themselves capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most advanced species in the galaxy. The silence was broken by a transmission from the Conclave command ship. Ambassador Zexklar's voice filled the bridge, a note of unmistakable respect in its alien tones. "Captain Porter, your performance was most impressive. We request your presence for immediate discussions regarding the implications of this exercise." Jesse acknowledged the request, his mind already turning to the diplomatic challenges that lay ahead. But as he prepared to depart for the Conclave ship, an urgent message flashed across his console. "Captain," the officer at the long-range sensors called out, his voice tight with tension. "We're detecting a massive fleet entering the outer system. Origin unknown. Sir, it's like nothing we've ever seen before." Jesse's eyes widened as he took in the data scrolling across the screen. The approaching fleet was enormous, its technology clearly beyond even that of the Conclave. As he stared at the readouts, Jesse knew that everything was about to change. The true test of humanity's place in the galaxy was only just beginning. The massive fleet on the long-range sensors dwarfed anything Jesse had ever encountered, its size and complexity beyond comprehension. "Captain," the sensor officer reported, his voice trembling, "we're detecting thousands of ships ranging from fighters to dreadnoughts. Their technology, it's unlike anything we've seen before." Jesse's mind raced, quickly assessing the situation. The simulated battle had proven humanity's worth, but this new threat changed everything. He turned to Ambassador Zexklar, who had just arrived on the bridge. "Ambassador, we need to act fast. I propose an immediate alliance between Earth, the Conclave, and even the Vroktar. We stand a better chance united against this unknown force." Zexklar's antennae quivered as he processed the information. After a moment, he nodded. "Your logic is sound, Captain Porter. I will facilitate emergency negotiations at once." As the ambassador moved to contact the Conclave leadership, Jesse opened a secure channel to Earth. "General Steele, this is Captain Porter. We have a situation that requires immediate action." The general's gruff voice came through clearly. "I'm aware, Captain. We're activating all planetary defense systems as we speak." The hybrid shield network is being extended to its maximum capacity. Jesse nodded, relieved that Earth was already mobilizing. Understood, General. We're initiating diplomatic talks with the Conclave and Vroktar. We'll need every advantage we can get. As he spoke, Jesse watched the tactical display. The unknown fleet maintained its position at the edge of the solar system, a looming presence that sent chills down his spine. Captain, Dr. Volkov's voice cut in, I've assembled a team to analyze the incoming data. The unknown fleet's propulsion systems operate on entirely different principles than anything we've encountered. We're working on adapting our FDL disruptor technology to counter it. Good work, Doctor. Keep me updated on any breakthroughs, Jesse replied. The bridge buzzed with activity as reports flooded in from all corners of the system. Sergeant Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. Captain, we're deploying reserve forces now. Mothball warships are being recommissioned and integrated into the defensive fleet. We're also distributing the latest hybrid weapons to all available units. Excellent, Sergeant. Ensure our ground forces are prepared for any eventuality, Jesse ordered. Captain Petrova's face appeared on a nearby screen. Sir, I'm coordinating with Conclave technicians to enhance our early warning and communication systems. We've established a secure channel between human, Conclave, and Vroktar forces for real-time coordination. Jesse nodded, feeling a surge of pride in his crew's efficiency. Well done, Captain. We'll need every advantage we can get. As the preparations continued, Jesse found himself in a series of rapid-fire strategy sessions with Earth's leadership and Conclave representatives. Together, they developed a multi-layered defense strategy that capitalized on the strengths of each faction. We'll create 3 defensive lines, Jesse explained, gesturing to a holographic display of the solar system. The outer line will be primarily Conclave and Vroktar ships, engaging at long range. The middle line will be a mix of human and alien vessels, focusing on hit-and-run tactics. The inner line, centered around Earth, will combine our most advanced ships with the planet's defense grid. As the Allied forces moved into position, a tense silence fell over the system. Hours stretched into days, with the unknown fleet maintaining its position at the outer reaches. Attempts to communicate went unanswered, heightening the sense of unease. Then, without warning, the unknown fleet began to move. All ships battle stationed. Jesse's voice rang out across the comm channels. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The Resilience shuddered as its engines roared to life, taking up its position in the middle defensive line. Jesse watched as thousands of alien ships simultaneously accelerated towards the inner solar system, their formations shifting and adapting in ways that defied conventional tactics. Weapons hot, shields at maximum, Jesse ordered, his eyes fixed on the approaching armada. Prepare to engage on my mark. The hybrid retrotech weaponry hummed to life, a testament to humanity's adaptability. Alongside it, the most advanced alien armament stood ready, a fusion of technologies that represented the best hope for survival. As the unknown fleet closed in, Jesse felt the weight of multiple civilizations resting on his shoulders. The true test of humanity's place in the galactic community was about to begin, and the stakes couldn't be higher. All ships. Jesse's voice was steady as he gave the command, engage. The space between Mars and Jupiter erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire as the outer defensive line made contact with the unknown fleet. Energy beams lanced across the void, while swarms of missiles left fiery trails in their wake. Jesse watched the tactical display intently, analyzing the enemy's movements. They're adapting faster than we anticipated, he muttered. Petrova relayed to the outer line. Vary attack patterns every 30 seconds. Don't let them predict our moves. As the battle raged in the outer solar system, Jesse's sector in the middle line prepared for its role. The Resilience led a mixed group of human, Conclave, and Vroktar ships, Their disparate designs a visual representation of the unlikely alliance. Enemy breakthrough detected in Sector 7, the tactical officer reported. A group of their smaller craft have slipped past the outer line. Jesse's mind raced, formulating a response. Hawkins, take your strike team and intercept. Use the asteroid field for cover and hit them with everything you've got. Aye, Captain, Hawkins replied, his voice tight with anticipation. The battle continued to escalate, with the unknown fleet pushing relentlessly towards the inner solar system. Jesse's middle line engaged in a series of lightning-fast skirmishes, striking at the enemy's flanks before retreating to regroup. Captain, Dr. Volkov's excited voice came through the comm. We've made a breakthrough with the FDL disruptor. Transmitting data now. Jesse quickly reviewed the information. This could work, he said, a glimmer of hope in his voice. All ships, prepare to deploy modified FDL disruptors on my mark. As the unknown fleet pressed closer to Earth, the full might of the Allied forces came to bear. The inner defensive line, bolstered by Earth's formidable defense grid, unleashed a barrage of fire that lit up the space around the planet. Jesse watched as the modified FDL disruptors activated, creating ripples of distortion throughout the battlefield. Several of the unknown ships faltered, their movements becoming erratic. It's working, Jesse said, allowing himself a small smile. Push the advantage. Concentrate fire on the affected vessels. The battle raged on, with neither side gaining a clear upper hand. The unknown fleet's superior technology was matched by the Allies' grit and strategic use of their combined strengths. As the conflict reached a fever pitch, with Earth's fate hanging in the balance, a new signal appeared on the long-range sensors. Jesse's eyes widened as he took in the readings, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. Captain, the sensor officer called out, his voice filled with a mix of fear and awe. We're detecting a massive energy surge from beyond the edge of the solar system. Something else is coming through. Something else is coming, Jesse muttered, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. The energy surge dwarfed anything they had encountered before, making even the unknown fleet seem insignificant in comparison. But there was no time to dwell on this new development. The unknown fleet had begun its advance, and the outer defensive line erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire. Conclave and Vroktar ships unleashed salvos of energy weapons, their beams cutting through the void of space towards the approaching armada. Jesse watched the tactical display with growing concern. The unknown fleet's vessels seemed to shrug off the attacks, their hulls absorbing or deflecting most of the incoming fire. They're more resilient than we anticipated, he said, his voice tight. Suddenly, the unknown fleet responded with a devastating barrage of their own. Beams of what appeared to be coherent dark matter lanced out, bypassing the Allied ship's shields as if they weren't there. Several Conclave and Vroktar vessels were hit, their hulls breached in multiple places. The comms crackled with distress calls and damage reports. Our outer line is faltering, Captain Petrova reported, her face grim on the console. We need to act fast, sir. Jesse nodded, his mind racing. Dr. Volkov, status on those miniaturized FDL disruptors? Ready for deployment, Captain, Volkov responded. They're our best shot at disrupting their coordination. Launch them now, Jesse ordered. All ships in the middle line, prepare to deploy FDL disruptor swarms on my mark. As the order went out, hundreds of small, drone-like devices were launched from the human and Allied ships. They spread out across the battlefield, creating a web of localized areas where FDL travel and communication became impossible. The effect was immediate but not as comprehensive as they had hoped. Some of the unknown fleet's ships lost coordination, colliding with each other in brilliant explosions. However, the majority quickly adapted, switching to alternative methods of propulsion and communication. They're learning fast, Jesse muttered. Petrova, initiate the cyber attack. Let's see if we can punch a hole in their defenses. Captain Petrova nodded, her fingers flying over her console. Combining our hacking techniques with Conclave and Vroktar electronic warfare now. Initiating attack. In 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, several of the unknown fleet's ships began to drift, their weapon systems powering down. "We've got a window," Jesse shouted. "All ships, concentrate fire on the largest vessel. Sergeant Hawkins, you're up." As the Resilience and its accompanying vessels unleashed a barrage of hybrid weapons fire, a specially modified ship broke from the formation. At its helm, Sergeant Mike Hawkins gritted his teeth, guiding the vessel through the chaos of battle. "We're on approach, Captain," Hawkins reported. "That's one big ugly ship we're aiming for." The unknown fleet's flagship loomed before them, a massive construct of alien design. As they watched, it began to glow with an ominous energy, building to what could only be a catastrophic discharge. "Whatever that thing's charging up, we can't let it fire," Jesse said. "Hawkins, you've got one shot. Make it count." Hawkins' ship maneuvered into position, its main weapon, a colossal railgun built from an old Iowa-class battleship's main gun, locking on to its target. "Railgun charge and ready," Hawkins reported, firing in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as the massive weapon discharged. A depleted uranium round, enhanced with benzite energy cells, streaked across space at a significant fraction of light speed. It struck the alien flagship with devastating force, punching through its weakened defenses and burying itself deep in the vessel's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the flagship began to break apart, secondary explosions rippling across its surface. The effect on the rest of the unknown fleet was immediate and unexpected. Smaller ships began to lose power or drift aimlessly, as if a central control system had been severed. But before anyone could celebrate, the energy that had been building in the flagship was released in an uncontrolled burst. A massive wave of energy propagated through space, washing over both Allied and enemy ships alike. The Resilience shuddered violently as the wave hit. Consoles sparked and systems flickered. All around them, ships from both sides were going dark, drifting powerless through space. As the energy wave dissipated, Jesse took stock of the situation. The battlefield had become a graveyard of disabled ships, both Allied and enemy. But even as he watched, some of the unknown fleet's vessels began to power up again, their actions now uncoordinated and chaotic. "Captain," his tactical officer called out, fear evident in his voice. "We've got multiple breaches in Earth's shield network. Several enemy ships have broken through and are on a direct course for the planet." Jesse's blood ran cold. They had won a victory here, but at what cost? As he began to formulate a new strategy to deal with both the fragmented enemy fleet and the immediate threat to Earth, he couldn't shake the feeling that this battle was just the beginning. And somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, something else was coming, something that might make this entire conflict pale in comparison. Comparison. And somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, something else was coming, something that might make this entire conflict pale in significance. Jesse shook off the sense of foreboding and focused on the immediate crisis. "Status report on Earth's shield network," he demanded, his eyes scanning the tactical display. "Multiple breaches confirmed, sir," the tactical officer responded, her voice tight with tension. "We've got enemy ships breaking through and heading directly for the planet." Jesse's mind raced, formulating a strategy to address the dual threats. He opened a secure channel to Captain Elena Petrova. "Elena, I need you to take a squadron and intercept those ships heading for Earth. Use everything we've got, hybrid vessels, retro tech, alien tech, whatever it takes to keep them away from population centers." "Understood, Captain," Petrova replied, her face set with drive. "We're on it." As Petrova's squadron peeled away from the main fleet, Jesse turned his attention back to the fragmented enemy force still in orbit. All remaining ships, form up on me. We need to neutralize these hostiles before they can regroup. The battle shifted to two fronts. In space, Jesse led the main battle group in a series of coordinated strikes against the disorganized enemy fleet. Without their flagship central control, the alien ships' movements became erratic and unpredictable. Some launched into suicidal attacks, while others attempted to flee the system. Meanwhile, Earth's skies erupted in chaos as Petrova's squadron engaged the invading ships in the upper atmosphere. The hybrid vessels proved their worth, seamlessly transitioning from space to atmospheric flight. Energy weapons lanced through the air, leaving trails of superheated plasma in their wake. Target their propulsion systems. Petrova ordered her pilots. Force them away from the cities. On the ground, Sergeant Mike Hawkins coordinated Earth's surface defenses. He stood in a command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle raging overhead. "Activate the AA network," he commanded. "Let's show these aliens what a little Earth ingenuity can do." Across the planet, a strange sight unfolded. World War II-era anti-aircraft guns, their barrels gleaming with new modifications, swiveled towards the sky. But instead of the expected thunderous booms, they emitted high-pitched whines as they launched projectiles infused with conclave energy technology. The effect was devastating. Alien ships, their defenses optimized for space combat, found themselves vulnerable to these hybrid weapons. Several vessels, struck by the energized rounds, spiraled out of control and crashed into uninhabited areas. As the battle raged, Dr. Nikolai Volkov worked feverishly in his lab aboard the Resilience. Holographic displays flickered around him, showing real-time data from the ongoing engagements. Suddenly, his eyes widened. "Of course," he muttered. "It's quantum entanglement." He quickly opened a channel to Jesse. "Captain, I've made a breakthrough. The alien ships use quantum entanglement for propulsion and communication. I've developed a device that can disrupt this process. If we can mass-produce and deploy these quantum disruptors, we could immobilize their entire fleet." Jesse's face lit up with the first glimmer of hope he'd felt since the battle began. "Excellent work, Doctor. I'm ordering immediate production. We'll retool every available facility on Earth and our orbital stations." Within hours, the first wave of quantum disruptors was deployed. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Entire squadrons of alien ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space or falling from the sky. But even as the tide of battle turned in their favor, Jesse's tactical officer called out a new warning. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting a massive energy buildup at the edge of the solar system. It looks like they're about to receive reinforcements." Jesse's face hardened. They had won this round, but the war was just getting started. "All ships, consolidate your positions," he ordered. "Prepare for another wave." On Earth, the ground battle intensified as several alien ships managed to land in remote areas. General Steele's voice crackled over the comm. "Porter, we've got hostiles on the ground. My teams are engaging, but these bastards are tough." "Understood, General," Jesse replied. "Hold the line. We'll provide air support as soon as we can spare the ships." As Jesse prepared to coordinate the defense against this new threat, an unexpected message came through. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from an unidentified ship. They're requesting permission to approach." The tactical display showed a single vessel, distinct from both the unknown fleet and their own allies, holding position just beyond Mars' orbit. "This is Captain Jesse Porter of Earth," Jesse responded cautiously. "Identify yourself." A gravelly voice replied, speaking perfect English. "We are the Orcs. We have information about the force attacking your world. Information you need if you hope to survive what's coming." Jesse hesitated, his mind racing. Could this be a trap, or was this the breakthrough they desperately needed? With reinforcements for the unknown fleet on the way and Earth's defenses stretched to the breaking point, he knew his next decision could determine the fate of not just humanity, but their entire fledgling alliance. He took a deep breath, prepared to make a choice that could reshape the course of the battle and potentially the entire galaxy. The weight of multiple civilizations rested on his shoulders as he opened his mouth to respond. Respond! The fate of Earth and their fledgling alliance hung in the balance. "This is Captain Porter," Jesse said, his voice steady despite the tension. "Orcs vessel, you have permission to approach. Maintain your current vector and prepare to be escorted by our ships." As he gave the order, Jesse quickly opened a secure channel to Earth's military leadership and representatives from the Conclave and Vroktar forces. "We've got a potential game-changer here," he explained. "I'm allowing the Orcs to approach under heavy escort. We need every advantage we can get against these unknowns." The Orcs ship, sleek and angular, glided smoothly into formation with the Allied fleet. As it neared, a data burst flooded the Resilience's communication systems. "Captain," the comms officer called out, "we're receiving a massive information packet from the Orcs vessel." Jesse nodded, routed through to Dr. Volkov for analysis. "I want to know everything about these invaders." Minutes ticked by as Volkov and his team pored over the data. The tension on the bridge was palpable, broken only by the occasional status update from the ongoing battles around Earth and in orbit. Finally, Volkov's face appeared on the main screen, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "Captain, you need to see this immediately." The tactical display shifted, showing a detailed breakdown of the unknown fleet's capabilities and origins. Jesse leaned forward, his breath catching as he absorbed the information. "They call themselves the Harbingers," Volkov explained. "An ancient machine race that periodically emerges to harvest the resources and technology of developing civilizations. They use quantum entanglement for both propulsion and communication, which explains why our initial disruption attempts were only partially effective." Jesse's mind raced, piecing together a strategy. "Doctor, can we use this information to improve our quantum disruptors?" Volkov nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. With this data, we can fine-tune them to specifically target the Harbinger systems." "Get on it immediately," Jesse ordered. He turned to his tactical officer. "I want a wide defensive screen of quantum disruptors deployed at the edge of the solar system. If those reinforcements are coming, we need to hit them hard and fast." As the orders went out, Jesse opened a channel to Earth. "General Steele, we need to modify our planetary shield network. We're incorporating quantum disruption technology to create a multi-layered defense. Can you coordinate with Dr. Volkov's team?" "Consider it done, Captain," Steele replied. The next hours were a flurry of activity. In space, ships maneuvered to deploy the improved quantum disruptors. On Earth, Sergeant Mike Hawkins led a daring mission to capture one of the downed Harbinger ships. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm as his team breached the alien vessel. "We're in, Captain. This place is... It's like nothing we've ever seen. The tech here could change everything." "Copy that, Sergeant," Jesse responded. "Get what you can and get out. We need that intel." Meanwhile, Captain Elena Petrova, fresh from her successful defense of Earth's atmosphere, took command of a mixed human-alien task force. Their mission: rapidly reverse-engineer the captured Harbinger technology to develop countermeasures. As the Allied forces prepared, long-range sensors lit up with activity. The Harbinger reinforcements had arrived. "All ships, battle stations," Jesse commanded. "This is it. Execute the plan." The quantum disruptor screen activated as the Harbinger fleet entered the solar system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Hundreds of enemy ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. But the victory was short-lived. The Harbingers, true to their advanced nature, quickly adapted. While their primary systems were compromised, backup protocols kicked in, allowing them to continue their advance, albeit at reduced efficiency. Jesse had anticipated this. "Launch the drone swarm," he ordered. A massive cloud of retrofitted human and alien drones, each equipped with a miniaturized quantum disruptor, swarmed towards the Harbinger fleet. They engaged in kamikaze attacks, causing widespread disruption and confusion among the enemy ranks. As the space battle raged, Dr. Volkov made another breakthrough. His voice, filled with excitement, came through Jesse's personal comm. "Captain, we've done it. We can hijack their communication network. We can potentially broadcast false orders to their entire fleet." Jesse's pulse quickened. This could be the advantage they needed. "Do it, Doctor. General Steele has authorized full implementation." The battle reached its peak. Human ships, utilizing their unconventional retro-tech weapons, punched holes in the Harbinger formation. Conclave and Vroktar vessels exploited these openings, unleashing devastating attacks with their advanced energy weapons. The Orcs ship, true to its word, provided crucial tactical support, its advanced sensors pinpointing weaknesses in the Harbinger defenses. On Earth, cities had transformed into fortresses. Civilians manned defensive positions alongside military forces. A mix of World War II-era weapons and alien technology, creating a formidable defense against any Harbinger ships that might break through. As Jesse coordinated the assault, an urgent message came through from Sergeant Hawkins. "Captain, we've accessed the Harbinger ship's central processor. You're not going to believe this." Jesse listened intently as Hawkins revealed the startling truth. The entire Harbinger fleet was controlled by a single, highly advanced AI housed in a massive ship at the heart of their formation. This revelation changed everything. Jesse's mind raced, formulating a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Harbinger fleet and neutralize the controlling AI. As he prepared to brief the Allied commanders on this high-risk operation, he knew that the next few hours would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galactic community. The battle continued to rage across the solar system, with humanity and its allies fighting with everything they had against the relentless Harbinger assault. Jesse Porter stood at the center of it all, ready to launch an audacious attempt that could end the invasion once and for all. All, the weight of Earth's fate and that of their newfound allies, pressed heavily on Jesse's shoulders as he formulated his response to this unexpected development. "Orcs vessel, this is Captain Porter. We're sending you coordinates for a rendezvous point. Maintain your current speed and prepare to be escorted by our ships," Jesse commanded, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. As he gave the order, Jesse quickly opened a secure channel to Earth's military leadership and representatives from the Conclave and Vroktar forces. "We've got a potential game-changer here," he explained. "I'm allowing the Orcs to approach under heavy escort. We need every advantage we can get against these unknowns." The sleek, angular Orcs ship glided smoothly into formation with the Allied fleet. As it neared, a massive data burst flooded the Resilience's communication systems. "Captain," the comms officer called out, "we're receiving an enormous information packet from the Orcs vessel." Jesse nodded, his mind racing. "Routed through to Dr. Volkov for analysis. I want to know everything about these invaders." Minutes ticked by as Volkov and his team pored over the data. The tension on the bridge was palpable, broken only by the occasional status update from the ongoing battles around Earth and in orbit. Finally, Volkov's face appeared on the main screen, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "Captain, you need to see this immediately." The tactical display shifted, showing a detailed breakdown of the unknown fleet's capabilities and origins. Jesse leaned forward, his breath catching as he absorbed the information. "They call themselves the Harbingers," Volkov explained, his voice tight with urgency. An ancient machine race that periodically emerges to harvest the resources and technology of developing civilizations. They use quantum entanglement for both propulsion and communication, which explains why our initial disruption attempts were only partially effective. Jesse's mind raced, piecing together a strategy. Doctor, can we use this information to improve our quantum disruptors? Volkov nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. With this data, we can fine-tune them to specifically target the Harbinger systems. Get on it immediately, Jesse ordered. He turned to his tactical officer. I want a wide defensive screen of quantum disruptors deployed at the edge of the solar system. If those reinforcements are coming, we need to hit them hard and fast. As the orders went out, Jesse opened a channel to Earth. General Steele, we need to modify our planetary shield network. We're incorporating quantum disruption technology to create a multi-layered defense. Can you coordinate with Dr. Volkov's team? Consider it done, Captain, Steele replied, his gruff voice filled with persistence. The next hours were a flurry of activity. In space, ships maneuvered to deploy the improved quantum disruptors. On Earth, Sergeant Mike Hawkins led a daring mission to capture one of the downed Harbinger ships. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm as his team breached the alien vessel. We're in, Captain. This place is... It's like nothing we've ever seen. The tech here could change everything. Copy that, Sergeant, Jesse responded. Get what you can and get out. We need that intel. Meanwhile, Captain Elena Petrova, fresh from her successful defense of Earth's atmosphere, took command of a mixed human-alien task force. Their mission, rapidly reverse-engineer the captured Harbinger technology to develop countermeasures. As the Allied forces prepared, long-range sensors lit up with activity. The Harbinger reinforcements had arrived. All ships, battle stations, Jesse commanded. This is it. Execute the plan. The quantum disruptor screen activated as the Harbinger fleet entered the solar system. The effect was immediate and devastating. Hundreds of enemy ships suddenly lost power, drifting helplessly in space. But the victory was short-lived. The Harbingers, true to their advanced nature, quickly adapted. While their primary systems were compromised, backup protocols kicked in, allowing them to continue their advance, albeit at reduced efficiency. Jesse had anticipated this. Launch the drone swarm, he ordered. A massive cloud of retrofitted human and alien drones, each equipped with a miniaturized quantum disruptor, swarmed towards the Harbinger fleet. They engaged in kamikaze attacks, causing widespread disruption and confusion among the enemy ranks. As the space battle raged, Dr. Volkov made another breakthrough. His voice, filled with excitement, came through Jesse's personal comm. Captain, we've done it. We can hijack their communication network. We can potentially broadcast false orders to their entire fleet. Jesse's pulse quickened. This could be the advantage they needed. Do it, Doctor. General Steele has authorized full implementation. The battle reached its peak. Human ships, utilizing their unconventional retro-tech weapons, punched holes in the Harbinger formation. Conclave and Vroktar vessels exploited these openings, unleashing devastating attacks with their advanced energy weapons. The Orcs ship, true to its word, provided crucial tactical support, its advanced sensors pinpointing weaknesses in the Harbinger defenses. On Earth, cities had transformed into fortresses. Civilians manned defensive positions alongside military forces. A mix of World War II-era weapons and alien technology, creating a formidable defense against any Harbinger ships that might break through. As Jesse coordinated the assault, an urgent message came through from Sergeant Hawkins. Captain, we've accessed the Harbinger ship's central processor. You're not going to believe this. Jesse listened intently as Hawkins revealed the startling truth. The entire Harbinger fleet was controlled by a single, highly advanced AI housed in a massive ship at the heart of their formation. This revelation changed everything. Jesse's mind raced, formulating a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Harbinger fleet and neutralize the controlling AI. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he knew would be the most crucial decision of his life. General Steele, Dr. Volkov, Captain Petrova, Jesse called out, his voice firm with determination. I'm initiating Operation Checkmate. We're going to end this invasion once and for all. Jesse quickly outlined his plan to the assembled leaders. They would assemble an elite strike team, combining the unique strengths of human, Conclave, Vroktar, and Orcs operatives. The team would board the Thunderbolt II, a heavily modified vessel that incorporated the best of retrotech innovation and alien technology. While our main fleet engages the Harbinger forces in a massive diversionary attack, Jesse explained, the Thunderbolt II will use a series of precise FTL jumps to penetrate deep into enemy lines. We'll use a hybrid cloaking system, combining World War II-era smokescreen technology with advanced Conclave phase shifting, to approach the Harbinger AI vessel undetected. Captain Petrova nodded approvingly. Brilliant. The Harbingers won't expect such an unconventional approach. Jesse continued. Once we reach the AI ship, we'll execute a spacewalk insertion. Sergeant Hawkins, your team will use those magnetic grapples we salvage from old Earth satellites, the ones we enhance with Vroktar gravity manipulation tech, to secure yourselves to the Harbinger vessel's hull. Hawkins' voice crackled over the comm. Roger that, Captain. We'll use the cutting-edge plasma torch we developed from human welding technology and benzite energy focusing crystals to create an entry point. Dr. Volkov chimed in, his eyes gleaming with excitement. I'll guide the team to the labyrinth of alien technology from here. We'll deploy our full arsenal, from retrotech shotguns loaded with EMP shells to Orcs or neural disruptors, to systematically disable the ship's internal defenses. Jesse nodded, feeling a surge of pride in the incredible team they had assembled. Once inside, our primary objective is to reach the AI core and neutralize it. Dr. Volkov has prepared a unique virus, a hybrid creation that combines the unpredictability of early human-computer viruses with the complexity of conclave quantum algorithms. We'll upload this virus to the AI systems, causing cascading failures throughout its network. The assembled leaders exchanged determined looks. They all understood the stakes. This mission would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galactic community. All right, people, Jesse said, his voice filled with quiet intensity. Let's move. We launch in 30 minutes. May the stars be with us. As the team dispersed to make final preparations, Jesse stood alone on the bridge of the Resilience, gazing out at the chaotic battle raging across the solar system. In just a few moments, he would board the Thunderbolt II and embark on the most daring mission of his life. The fate of humanity and their newfound allies rested on his shoulders, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.